No, I had the headphones off. When that happens, I can't hear anything.
That's good.
Well, yes and no.
Believe we're now live, Linda?
Not yet.
No?
It's okay. Now we are. Now we're live.
All right. Welcome everyone to Marine Resources Committee meeting for February 18th. We have been talking a bit, but just so you know, we've established that we have a quorum. A quorum for us is 7 members, including a senator in that mix. And we have started the YouTube stream. So we will go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Dave Miramont. I represent Senate District 12. And just because I have it right here, I don't do this very often, but today, Senate District 12 is Appleton, Camden, Cree Haven, Cushing, Friendship, Hope, Idaho, Matinicus, Muscle Ridge Islands, North Haven, Owl's Head, Rockland, Rockport, South Thomaston, St. George, Thomaston, Union, Vinyl Haven, and Warren. And it's so much fun to ride around our district, as you can imagine. And we'll move on to my co-chair, Senator McCray, Representative McCray.
Thank you. Thanks for the promotion. Yeah, I'm Jay McCray, representing House District 51, Harpswell, West Bath, and Northeast Brunswick in the House. And do you want me to call on people, Senator?
I'll do it so you can relax for a minute. And who do we have here? There's a couple missing, but Senator Maxman.
Hi, I'm Chloe Maxman, representing Senate District 13, which is all of Lincoln County plus Washington and Windsor, but not Dresden.
Thank you, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Kimberly Rosen, Senate District 8. My district goes from Castine through Penobscot, Orland, Bucksport, through the city of Brewer, all the way up to Lincoln, Maine.
Hey, Representative Hepler.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. So I represent Dresden and Lincoln County, as well as Arousig, Georgetown, Phippsburg, Woolwich, where I live, and part of Richmond.
Okay, he's not here. We'll go down the other way. He's not. Representative Alley.
Yes, sir. I'm Representative Alley from the Jonesboro Beals area, and I have 12 communities in my district, District 138. That's Jonesboro, Beals, Edison, Harrington, Columbia, Columbia Falls, Centerville, Jonesboro, Marshfield, Whitneyville, Cherryfield, and Millbridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative McDonald.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Genevieve McDonald. I represent House District 134, which is the offshore islands of Penobscot Bay and Western Frenchman's Bay. Thank you.
Representative Hutchins.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Sherm Hutchins. I represent District 131, which are the communities of Otis and Dedham, Orland, Penobscot, Verona Island, Prospect, and Stockton Springs.
Thank you. Representative Thorne.
Morning. Thank you. Make sure I'm off mute. I am off mute. I had checked it this morning. From District 103, which is in the heart of Maine, right here in Carmel, Maine, incorporated in 1811. Our town manager had one of these when I went to see him. So he said, if you're going to be Zooming, you got to tell people where you're from. The heart of Maine in Carmel, Maine.
Great. And if anybody else on the committee pops in, we'll let them introduce themselves. But did I forget anyone who's actually on here? No. Well, great. Thanks for being here today. I'll just remind the public that members have to testify in other committees from 9 o'clock till, well, who knows how late. We were on in labor until after 6 yesterday, and I know some others went late. So people will come and go. It's not a level of interest. It's just a necessity. They'll all catch up on your written testimony later. They'll be reviewing the bills. Everybody gets informed before they vote, and they all have a chance to vote later. So we're going to have some public hearing, some work sessions today. And since we're just starting that, I'm just going to review this a little more carefully, but every time I'll just make sure we've hit all the notes. So I'm about to go in there and we'll get started. So that's the gavel. Okay, I'm Senator Marymount. I'll be presiding over this work session here in the Marine Resources Committee. The format's new to all of us and expect there will be unforeseen glitches. Fortunately, we spent half an hour on them already today. Maybe there won't be any others. Please be patient. We're doing our best and we'll all learn as we go along and improve. That's been happening. So the purpose of this meeting is for the committee to receive information from staff and others in order for members to consider the legislative proposals before them. This is committee members. Unless we have a question and we can easily put our hand on someone who can answer it, it'll just be for us to discuss within the committee. And the public's welcome to observe, and it's being live streamed on the YouTube channel, and the audio is going out over the legislature's website at www.legislature.maine.gov. So the YouTube live stream is going on already. It'll remain on until the end of the day's work when we say it's stopped and we get confirmation from Linda. If your video or audio is on, even if the committee is not in active session or is on break, the public can see and hear you. So remember to mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and we can eventually mute it for you if you forget and wander off and the dog's barking, but we'd rather you did it. It'll save embarrassment in some cases. And check your names are appearing the way they're supposed to. That's another one. We're getting pretty good at that. So I say it looks good. And it's a public meeting. While we're meeting, discussion must happen on screen, not by way of the chat. Remember to use the chat only if you're having technical issues or something like that. It's not to talk to each other. If you have to step away from the screen momentarily to talk to someone in a different format, that's up to you. Just don't use the chat feature. If you're having technical difficulties, get our attention. We'll have the clerk call IT, or she can probably resolve it. We've already talked about how to do the meeting. We've done the public hearings before. But just remember, jump in if you're missing something. We'll try to find it for you. And when it comes time to vote, we must have a quorum still, at least 7 members, including a senator. In order to be counted as present, your identity must be visually verifiable on the Zoom screen. And we'll do a roll call unless there's any objection, which there hasn't been so far. Linda will read your name, you'll vote, and then she'll read the next name. She's not going to keep repeating names to keep it moving along. If it's a procedural thing, we'll probably go with a show of hands, as long as I can see the gallery, which is how I'm watching this, just to prove something simple. We've done our introductions, so I'd like to begin. I don't have any requests for out of order. Anything from you, Jane? No. Okay. So we'll begin with LD 106, an act to amend Maine's aquaculture leasing and licensing statutes that Representative McCray presented last week. And that opens the work session on LD 106.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to indulge me 2 items. One, I will attempt every morning before a work session to send you the bill analysis first thing in the morning. They are also posted on the committee webpage. And the other is I have a pet who is mesmerized by the Hollywood Squares. So if a face pokes in my screen, that's what's going on. And it's the best way for me to manage it is just to ignore it. So anyways, that's welcome to Zoom. So the first bill we're talking about this morning is LD 106, an act to amend Maine's aquaculture leasing and licensing statutes. In my bill analysis, I set it out, the summary of the bill a little differently than it appears. Sometimes I do that for my own purposes to help me understand a bill, and sometimes I will present it to you in that way. So what I will briefly walk through what this bill does, because it's long. The first thing it amends is in the research and aquaculture leasing section of the law. It expands the reasons the department may revoke a lease to include leases that are operating in a manner substantially injurious to public health. And another reason, a new reason DMR can revoke a lease is if the lease is being operated in a way that violates minimum lease maintenance standards. For research and aquaculture leases, another change in the bill is for lease renewal. The application needs to be filed within 30 days. That's a change from current law, which says 90 days. It also adds a requirement that if members of the public wish to request a hearing in a lease renewal situation, that option exists if the request for a public hearing is received within 30 days. Also under research and aquaculture leases, lease expansion is now prohibited until after the lease has been held for 2 years. So that's some of the changes under the research and aquaculture lease provisions. The next section of law that's changed, let me step back. There's going to be more later. The next general changes under the limited purpose commercial or research lease. The change in that is that the commissioner's rulemaking authority to modify these limited purpose and research leases is repealed under this bill. With respect to limited purpose aquaculture licenses, the newest requirement is that the license, there must be direct supervision of unlicensed individuals. There are now exceptions to the direct supervision requirement that's been added. And then there are several general changes with respect in all of these sections with respect to notices, fees and costs, and rulemaking authority. I have them on the bill analysis. I would either at the pleasure of the committee, I will skip those unless someone really wants me to go through them. I don't want to take too much of your time on the bill because I know that you heard quite a lot about it already. But there are changes to the notice requirements, to the rulemaking authorities, and to the fees and costs. Generally, with respect to the fees and costs, there is a shift on there's a shift to allow the department to be reimbursed for some of the costs of, particularly of the public notice of public hearings. So there was testimony, which I identify who testified on page 3, but I did not summarize it as that is readily available. I did want to note that this bill was brought forward in the 129th, and it was voted ought to pass out of this committee. It was carried over into the second session. It was reported out after the second session adjourned. So because there was no special session, this bill was not enacted. There are some minor changes between the version enacted in the 129th and this session. If people have specific questions, I am more than happy to go through those. Again,
if you could go through quickly the difference between what passed last time and this version, that would be helpful, please.
Yes, I can do that. So one difference is In the first section of the bill, and this is a technical, I believe, a technical Ross change, they changed the word phrase municipal officials to municipal officers. That was done because the rest of these sections refer to municipal officers. So this change of changing it from municipal officials to municipal officers is intended to make the statute consistent throughout. Another change is fixing the word shall and making it must, another revisor change. There is a new section that allows the commissioner, not requires, but allows the commissioner to receive reimbursement for the costs in providing public notice. And this is under section 6072, which is research and aquaculture leases. There is a difference in the major difference that I noticed is if you look at the bill, which I know you may or may not be able to, it's subsection 6072, subsection 13, paragraph F. I know you'll just run right to that. Which is a subsection on, hold on, I'm having trouble running right to it. It has to do with the reevaluation fees and rents. There was language removed in the 129th that this bill does not propose to remove. The language is, in addition to fees authorized under this section, the commissioner may establish fees for services provided by the department to leaseholders if they request testing or location-specific studies to ensure their products are safe for human consumption. And I realize it's quite difficult for you. If I'm trying to find my document, because perhaps I can screen share it. If you would like me to do that, I can pause for maybe 30 seconds. Would that be helpful to you all? If I screen shared something?
It looks like I'm seeing nods, yes, so that's good.
Okay, let me pull this up.
See if it's readable. It's usually so tiny.
I understand that. So let's see my skill set. Screen share, I apologize.
And while you're doing that, Representative Fockingham, why don't you introduce yourself, please? Or not, we'll come back to that. Go ahead, Lynn.
Can you all see this? It's titled Differences Between LD 106 and LD 139. So yellow is what's in this current bill that wasn't in last session. Purple, which is what I'm talking about now, is what was removed by the 129th, but is not removed. Is it large enough? I can make it larger.
Yep.
So that is the language that, as I said, was removed in the 129, but not removed in this bill. And this subsection has to be, this subsection of the statute well, I don't really understand. I guess I should pause and say I was not here in the 129, so I do not know what the discussion was and why the committee removed this through an amendment.
Well,
Perhaps,
I don't know if it matters what the intent of the previous committee was,
okay,
just to know what was there and what's changed since that
Okay.
bill was passed by us last time.
okay.
What
So
went
then,
away, what was added?
okay, so what was also added is again yellow. So one, rules adopted are routine technical. Also added is that the commissioner may require reimbursement for costs incurred in providing public notice. Another addition again is this yellow, the reimbursement. Another change in this bill that was not in the prior one is the change in the fees from 50 to 100 and from 300 to 400. And finally, I believe, is this other new language that gives the commissioner the ability to limit the period in each year within which license applications can be submitted. So the major ones are the cost increase, reimbursement. Commissioner can now get reimbursement. That's all new. And then this one section that I'm not sure the purpose or intent. So I'm
Okay,
gonna-
thank you, Lynn. All
Yes.
right. So does that do it for your review?
No, it does not.
Ah, okay.
I just want to point out a couple technical issues that I highlighted. Well, actually, I want to address one comment that was received from someone who testified, and that is the change of the word regulations to rules. Most of you probably already know this, but the person who testified thought it had some significance. It does not have significance. The state agencies in Maine do not adopt regulations, they adopt rules. So this change for the word regulation to rule is strictly to bring that portion of law in conformity to what happens in the state of Maine. I had two technical issues that I discussed with Deirdre Gilbert. The first one is there's new language that DEP is only notified when there's a discharge. My question was discharge of what into what? There's different, you can say discharge into coastal waters, discharge into air and waters. The response from the department was that they would amend that to say discharge into the waters of the state. So to clarify that specific portion, and I do have, let's see, the other technical issue that I discussed with Deirdre appeared in another portion of the statute where several words are replaced. It's who is given notice. And after talking to Deirdre, I clarified that that list is, well, I should say Deirdre is going to clarify for you whether that additional language accurately reflects the intent of the department. And that is found on your bill on page 2, lines 13 through 19. But before you ask Deirdre to confirm that, there was a sponsor's amendment because you'll recall that there were comments that were received about the supervision portion. So you hopefully are seeing a screen that shows you a part of the bill, and at the bottom, you will see the sponsor's amendment is to remove the word majority in front of the phrase a license holder who is also the holder of or a shareholder in a corporation. So this is an amendment proposed by the sponsor to address the issues raised during the public hearing about companies where there are multiple shareholders, but there is not necessarily a majority shareholder. So would you like me to stop screen sharing that? And that concludes my, my bill analysis.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And for new members, this is the process for work sessions. The analyst will go notes, everything you just heard. There can be all kinds of stuff that comes up at a public hearing. So sponsor goes to fix, the department suggests stuff. So we may deal with one or multiple amendments or parts of amendments to the bill right when we open up. However you do your work, what we do usually in the committees, get the bill in front of you, the paper bill, and take notes on that or your notepad and come back with it for the work session to help jog your memory about some of those things you said, well, I wonder, maybe this would make it better. But then when Lynn, our analyst, goes over that, it may have been taken care of. So that might knock that off or not. It may give you some more questions. So actually, it almost always does. And now, if there are any that maybe the department can answer or the sponsor, we'll ask them those or give them the chance at least if we have to. And we'll ask that they get right to the heart of the question and be as brief as possible, but clarifying. But we don't have too much trouble with that with Director Gilbert or the commissioner because they know their stuff and they can get to the heart of the matter. So that's kind of, I'm not going to do this every time, but that's how a work session tends to go. And then there's the variables of having sometimes 13 people plus the department there, and things can change in lots of ways. So here we go. And so I will start with the sponsor to, if you have anything you wanted to add about your amendment or anything else that you've worked with. Representative McCray.
Thank you, Senator. No, Lynn covered the amendment that I had suggested just to take out that word to clarify that a aquaculture company that had multiple owners would not have the problem that was anticipated by that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I'll let any members who have questions ask them before we bring anybody else in. Of the analyst, of the sponsor. And you can even throw out something that was sort of left up to the DMR to explain, but you can just put it out so that when we bring them in, if we do, they can answer that too all at once. Okay, Representative Thorne, then Representative Fockingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully this will be an easy question. I just, when she spoke of reimbursements for public forums and fees and so forth, where do those reimbursements come from?
Representative McCray, you want to take that or you want the department to when they answer?
Yeah, I would defer to the department rather than say something that I'm not correct about.
Great, I have a question on fees too, so we'll wait for whoever's going to answer. And Representative Fockingham. And introduce yourself too, if you would, please.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Representative Billy Bob Fockingham. I represent House District 136. I wanted to see that screenshot again. Maybe we could screen share that amendment one more time, if that's possible.
Sure, Lynn, please.
Are you seeing it all? Are you all seeing it?
It's up. I'm seeing it.
So you will notice that I'm still learning this process. So you'll see that the proposed change from the sponsor is to remove that one word majority in front of the majority shareholder, which would allow an exception to the supervision requirement if a shareholder as opposed to a majority shareholder. Is that, have I lost you? I hear silence.
If you can hear me, I'm reading it while it's on the screen. I don't have it in front of me, and I don't have access to a printer.
Okay, we'll give you a minute.
Hello. Good.
You got that?
Yeah, can I come back to that?
Okay, you think about that. Let's go
Can I
back
ask
to,
can I ask a question, or?
sure.
Sorry if I'm on there. Okay, so it's not right in front of me, so I tried to commit it to my memory. But it says so basically section 2 says that only the holder of the lease can oversee, but the section we're talking about there was okay, thank you for that. 2B was exceptions, which made it so other people could basically be the foreman or whatever in charge of overseeing other people. And it looked like it said a shareholder or a majority shareholder, and then majority was crossed out. So I don't know why it had the majority in there anyway, because it looked like any shareholder could be that person before the majority part was crossed out, the way I'm reading it. A license holder who is also the holder of or a majority shareholder in a corporation. So it seems to me, well, I guess basically this clarifies it, but it looks like it was any shareholder could have taken that role anyway. Am I reading it? Is anybody else perceiving it the way I am, or?
Whoever chooses to answer, sponsor, Lynn, anyone?
My question was also on that same issue.
You wanna-
Senator, I can jump in and try to explain.
Okay, Representative McCray.
Yeah, I think the idea was that we didn't need the word majority. It confused things when a company, some companies are just an individual, some have multiple owners, and we heard testimony from one of those groups that it's a multiple owner sort of company. So they were requesting that this would be a burden for them to have to be a majority shareholder when their shares are more equal. So, or are equal. So the idea was just to clarify that it's the person or people who own the company who can be the people we're talking about, not simply the majority shareholder.
And if I may, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Lynn.
I think that that's a good question on whether there's a difference between a holder or a shareholder. And I'm wondering if the intent is more along the lines of is the owner of a corporation and versus a shareholder. But I think the department might might have an answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, so it sounds like we have enough to ask the department to start with. My help clarify. Director Gilbert, please join us.
Thank you. Yes, so I just wanted to clarify that construction, and now it's disappeared from my screen too, but the original reference to a holder meant the holder of the lease. So leases are held by either individuals or corporations. So in the case where the lease is held by an individual and the LPA is also held by an individual, the holder of a lease can apply for an exception. If the holder of a lease is a corporation, the original construction proposed that the only individual that could apply for an exception was a majority shareholder. And as Representative McCreight explained, the notion of the majority was struck to allow it to be any shareholder of the corporation would be eligible to apply for an exception for an LPA that they hold. Does that clarify that?
Representative Fockingham and Hutchins, that help?
Yes, Joe Much. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
My question also is on that same thing. I remember last year we did away, I thought anyway, with the fact that an owner had to be present on a lease to have it operating, and we changed that so they didn't have to be. Is this addressing that somehow that I don't quite understand, maybe?
Director Gilbert.
Thank you. Yes, Representative Fockingham. So where the committee ended its work last session was to keep the requirement for direct supervision, but to create the potential for the department to grant exemptions to that direct supervision through a process that we would develop in regulation. So the committee identified 3 situations where they were comfortable allowing the department to grant exceptions from the direct supervision requirement.
And that you've done?
Yes, you kept the direct supervision. You just gave some more flexibility around when that applied.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Fockingham.
Am I on there now?
You are.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Deirdre did a pretty good job of addressing the concern and the question I had in her answer. My only concern with it is that shareholder is a legal term. It's used for mostly for tax purposes and legal reasons. And I know that, like in my instance, I don't incorporate, but that's a tax, basically a tax decision. And I'm a sole proprietor, and I think Deirdre kind of answered it, but still the word shareholder of a corporate, the fact that that's in statute, that it actually says corporation in it, it makes me kind of think that the word corporation should probably be taken out, because that is a legal term, and this is a statute that we're going to be putting it into. So I want to make sure that it's not excluding sole proprietors and other business entities when we do that. That's my concern with the words being used there.
Okay, is that for you, Lynn, a lawyer, or is that department? Have you thought about that? We'll start with Lynn.
So I am not, I agree that this section probably needs to be revised from the conversation you're all having. I haven't come up with the exact phraseology. So I'd like to say and this would be a question for the department, is the intent to say a license holder who is also holds a lease? That, I think, is the general. It's a license holder who also holds a lease. So that, I think, can be clarified. The question I think that Representative Fockingham raises is, do you need to have the shareholder in a corporation. If you say a license holder who also holds a lease, is it clear that that means a sole proprietor or an individual shareholder in a corporation? I think the intent is the intent is if it's a sole proprietor who has a license and they hold a lease, they can get an exception. If it's a shareholder in a corporation who's applying for the license and the corporation also holds a lease, they can get an exception. I think there's a way to write that that's clear. If the committee is in favor of that concept, what I would suggest is that I work with the department, draft something that represents what the committee is headed for, and then bring it back to you to look at specifically the amended language and make sure it reflects where you're headed.
Thank you, Lynn. Director Gilbert.
What Lynn has described is accurate with regard to our intent, that the eligibility for an exception would go to either of those people. As I said, I think the thing that is complicated here is that licenses are always held by individuals, but leases may be held by individuals or by corporations. So I'm happy to work with Lynn to draft the right kind of drafting to clarify that.
Okay, so we have that issue. Go ahead, Lynn.
I'm wondering, and I'm just throwing this out, if something like a leaseholder who also holds a license, either individually or as a shareholder of a corporation.
It's pretty clear. Representative Buckingham.
As long as, I mean, I would be fine with it to probably move this on to language review, but as long as the language review covered owners, I think that the word, you know, I'm looking for is owner or any business entity, not necessarily a corporation. Because I know that word has specific legal definitions, and this is a statute, so I don't want it to be exclude people that we're not meaning to exclude. So as long as it was encompassed at all forms of businesses, then I would be fine with it.
Great. So I think we know the intent and the language should be easy. I agree. This, other than the parts that in the analysis of what we had last time and the changes that Lynn highlighted, this is the first one I think that we have to have a little change that's not already written down. And as you pointed out, come back as language review, nothing to keep us from moving on this bill at this point. And your hand's still up, Representative Buckingham. Okay, good. I thought so. Any other questions? And I see Representative McCray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a helpful, friendly amendment, and I agree could be come back to us in language review. So thank you.
Okay, and Director Gilbert, I have a question since I'm not seeing any hands. If the LPA is used the way it's intended and these changes take effect, why the $100 increase in the fees? Is there, the LPAs are a way to make money, not just to do a short test or something like that. So you're saying a commercial entity should have to pay this to use the LPA, and the fees need to be $100 more in each one?
Yes, thank you, Senator Miramont. So that fee increase was proposed in the last bill from last session. I think that was one of the things that was identified as potentially new this year, but it was not. It was in last year's bill. The existing fee for an LPA is $50. The proposed increase is to $100. That we feel like that is actually a very modest fee as when considering the amount of work that goes into the issuance of LPAs. It's more consistent with other license fees. It has not been raised, to my knowledge, since the beginning, since the creation of the LPA. It will not fully compensate for the work that goes into the LPAs. It'll make a modest increase that goes into the aquaculture account. So will help support the program. But we were really not thinking of that fee in conjunction with this other change. LPAs are commercial enterprises. People use them both to kind of prospect an area, but they can sell the product that they raise on that LPA. Some people use them, again, that is what they use for their business, and they themselves tend that site. So it is a commercial opportunity for people. It's not solely just a research endeavor.
Great, makes sense then. Thank you. I see a hand only from Lynn at the moment. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a question earlier, I don't remember who asked, but I thought it had to do with fees and costs. I thought maybe I would answer it. The question, as I heard it, was who is the fees and the costs, who's paying those? So if I could just briefly state, there are the changes to the bill, and there are 4. They allow the department or require the department to get reimbursed from the applicant for the cost of public hearings. So it's from the applicant.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Well, seeing no hands, we could take a motion if everybody's comfortable. If you have no questions, I usually assume you're comfortable and we just need a motion. We have the one thing for language review. Director Gilbert has a question.
Thank you. I did want to respond. Lynn had originally raised the question about the change it's the list of parties that will receive notice for the renewal of a standard lease. And I just wanted to confirm, we were trying to replicate the list that is currently identified for renewal of for issuance of an experimental lease. So including the leasee in that list is desired by the department. The other issue with your permission I'd like to raise, since the public hearing, staff did identify a concern that we were proposing experimental leases that they are not able to be amended because experimental leases have very short terms of 3 years, and we don't think it's necessary to allow those amendments. Some experimental leases, a very small number, are actually used for research purposes. The Darling Center is an example of an entity that might hold a lease for research purposes. As they bring new staff on board, sometimes it is necessary to amend a scientific lease to allow for a new project. Those experimentals are renewable, which ordinary experimentals are not. So if that, in retrospect, if scientific experimentals could be amended, I think that would facilitate the work that folks are trying to do around aquaculture research, if that's something the committee would consider.
Okay. Lynn, you have those notes?
I do, Mr. Chair, and would it be helpful if I list what I think are the 5 potential amendments that the committee may want to consider?
Please.
So the first was the sponsor's amendment, removing the word majority. The second is the rework of that entire section. So I think those kind of merge into one. So that's that one section of law. The second one that I mentioned was adding the phrase "into the waters of the state of Maine" into the discharge portion. And then the 2 that Deirdre just mentioned, adding basically the phrase "the lessee" into that long list of who gets notice. And then the last one was also the one Deirdre mentioned, which is the scientific experimental leases changing some language around that prohibition to clarify that scientific experimental leases may be modified. So I think there's basically 4 that you've discussed.
Okay. All right, this puts us in an area where if you're comfortable, I see no hands. If you're comfortable, someone can make a motion about the bill. If you think that's enough changes that you want to have Lynn go back and write it down so you have it written in front of you before you vote on the bill. If there's just 1 or 2, I usually just try to move it along. But Representative Falkingham, go ahead.
I make a motion that we pass the bill as amended with all the committee amendments that were just brought up with the sponsors amendment pending language review.
Okay, we have a motion ought to pass,
I'll second.
and we have a second from Representative Hepler.
Ought to pass as amended.
Ought to pass as amended. Yes. Repeat the full sentence. Good for you. Thank you. Okay. So discussion. Seeing no hands, we'll move to Linda for a vote, and we need to see you. And I never have. I'm sorry, Representative Stanley. You're just popping up. Just a second, Linda. Could you introduce yourself, please? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
You can, thank you.
Yes. Hi, I'm Peggy Stanley. I represent District 143. That's the Katahdin area. And that's about it.
Great, thank you, welcome. And I saw that you were listening, so nice to have you. Okay, Linda, can we have?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have very limited internet here, so that's why I'm on no video.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll do the vote while we have your picture.
All right, and I just want to mention to people, you can quickly unmute yourself by just holding down the space bar if that's helpful to you. I'm going to be going in order with the horseshoe, starting from the left audience view. So we'll be starting with Representative Thorne.
Yes.
Representative Hepler.
Yes.
Senator Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Miramont.
Yes.
Representative McCreight.
Yes.
Representative Falkingham.
Yes.
Representative Alley.
Yes.
Representative McDonald.
Yay.
Representative Hutchins.
Yes.
And Representative Stanley.
Yes.
So that makes it 11 in favor, 2 absent.
Okay, they'll have a chance to vote for 2 days, which we used to be closed of business, but now is noon on the second day. Is Lynn shaking her head? That is correct. So hopefully they'll check in. It is their responsibility, but if anybody reaches out to them, that's great too. Who was it that didn't vote?
That was Representative Crafts and Representative Bloom.
Great. All right. So good. And I don't think this one will surprise us after we get those 2 votes. So the motion ought to pass as amended passes, and that closes the work session on LD 106. Next, we'll move on to the work session on LD 152, an act to address training requirements for harbor masters. And this opens that work session. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair. This bill, which Representative McCreight keeps getting promoted today, Representative McCreight sponsored. It was submitted at the request of the Maine Harbor Masters Association. It changes some training requirements. It requires reappointed and new harbor masters who have not held the position during the previous 5 years. They need to complete basic training. It also requires advanced training and continuing education. And it also allows but does not require municipalities to pay for basic training. The one issue that I identified, and I spoke with the sponsor, and she has an amendment to propose, which I'm going to screen share because it will make my discussion easier. So hopefully you're all seeing a page that has yellow highlights on it. The question I raised was in section 1, there is existing language that was not repeated in the new sections on advanced and continuing education. And that is the phrase, the person appointed or reappointed shall pay the costs. That isn't in the new subsections on advanced training or on continuing education. And as you probably recall, missing language in subsequent related provisions is generally, we don't like that because it raises the question, why is it in subsection A but not in the others? Does that mean something? My other comment would be, I'm not sure the language is necessary. I'm not sure it needs to specifically state that the harbor master or deputy harbor master must pay the costs. So one option was to remove that from the existing language from subsection 1, which is what the sponsor agreed was okay with her. The other option is to put that phrase in the new subsections. So that's the first kind of technical issue. The second technical issue, similar, is the last sentence, the last phrase in subsection 1 that says, except that the cost of training may be paid by the municipality at its sole discretion. So this is saying the municipality may pay the cost of basic training. It doesn't give the municipality the authority to pay for advanced and continuing education. And so again, you have language in one section that's not in others. The answer is that yes, the intent was to allow municipalities, allow not require, so this is not a state mandate, allow but not require municipalities to pay upfront the cost of the training. So instead of repeating that phrase in all 3 subsections, what I suggested is the amendment change subsection 2. That is on your screen, to include that a municipality can reimburse, which is the existing language, to add that provision payment. So municipalities may pay for or reimburse for the training, and the continuing education. So those are the technical issues I raised, and the sponsor, Representative McCrate, agreed that this is one way to resolve those issues. So that's I think my analysis of this bill, and I will leave the screen share up or take it down at your direction.
Do you need that up longer, committee, or did you get it? And we can go back to our view of everyone. Okay, I see. Representative Thorne, what would you like? Screen up or down, I mean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have just one small question on the reimbursement. I don't know if we should wait on that for later, or if there was a timeline involved for reimbursement, if that was an option that was chosen.
Just one sec. I see no other hands, so let's go ahead and take down the screen share, Lynn, please. And then whoever can answer that question for Representative Thorne. Nice, Dan's, okay. So Representative McCracy, sponsor of the bill, I'll let her answer. Is that what your hand's up for? And then Representative Fockingham after that.
Representative Thorne, you're asking if there's a timeline when the reimbursement would need to happen? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, my question is, there was a pay for it or reimburse. And I didn't know if there was a timeline associated with the reimbursement, and was that reimbursement to the department or the town?
No, typically reimbursement is rare. Typically, towns have opted to pay. If they haven't, there have been a few cases where they've reimbursed. The responsibility is the harbor masters, not the municipalities. The municipalities have no requirement to pay training. They haven't in the past and still don't, according to this bill. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Representative Fockingham, go ahead. And then Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I figured I'd lower my hands when I started this time. That way it doesn't remain up after I'm done. So I'm not really sure what the motivation was for this bill coming forward. I guess it was at the request of the Harbor Association, which apparently wants to run more people through its program. But for people that don't understand, there's a huge difference between rural Maine harbors and bigger, more developed Maine harbors, and what exactly a harbor master does, their responsibilities, and what they have to manage and take care of. And this bill would be quite a huge burden for a lot of the smaller rural Maine harbors, fishing harbors, things like that. In a lot of the towns, it's very difficult to even find somebody that will volunteer to be the harbor master, which is a voted on position in most places. Some places it's appointed, and some places it's hired. It's different. But in Down East Maine, the person who usually gets stuck with being harbor master is someone that just has a knowledge of the harbor, the moorings, where to set the moorings, that type of thing. It doesn't entail everything that it does in southern and western, as we say on the coast to the western. So what harbor master's duties and what they do in a place like Portland or South Portland or Rockland or Bar Harbor is very different than what they'll do in a place like Winter Harbor or Beals or most of the other small rural harbors in eastern Maine. So even just the basic course that they have to take is a burden, and I'll use the term pain in the ass for a lot of the harbor masters, but they already go through that. To then make them go through another advanced course seems burdensome, and it's adding a cost to the person that's basically volunteering to get screamed at and take a job, an already unrewarding job of getting yelled at from people about whose punt is tied where, and why'd that guy get that mooring, and why'd this guy get that one, and all that. And then you're going to go make them take an advanced course. It's an overkill. I'm sure the people that need this course will take it. I'm sure the people that are, want to be qualified to get a paid salary harbor master position at some of these places where they actually make money. But for the guy up in my neck of the woods that might be doing it voluntarily or for a $500 annual stipend, this is just it's no bueno on this. So I hope the committee decides not to pursue this bill. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Representative Fockingham. Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to echo a lot of the same concerns that Representative Fockingham just had. I also live in rural Down East Maine, and I'm concerned that this is a high bar for some of our small local harbors, particularly our islands. I have multiple questions, if you don't mind. I think I recall that in the 129th, the analyst had a summary of testimony highlights. I don't know if that's still available. I was just scrolling back through the documents, but we don't have, I wasn't able to, I know there were people that testified verbally and that isn't documented. So I couldn't go back and review, and I didn't know if Lynn had a summary of past testimony and if we could hear that.
Thank you, Representative McDonald. I did not go and pull the previous testimony for the testimony for a prior bill. I do have access. I mean, I can find the bill analysis.
I didn't mean a prior bill. I meant if you had, I believe it was something that was available in the past, but I wasn't sure if my memory was correct that you do have a summary of the testimony on this current bill.
Oh,
as part of her stuff this morning, and it's also on the committee's website, and it's like any other bill analysis from the analyst. It says summary and then testimony, which was pretty light, and proponents were Darren Granada, VP Harbor Master Association, Sean Hebert, Maine Harbor Master, Marine Safety Division, Naples, and opponents, MMA, Rebecca Graham, neither for nor against, Kevin Brody. That's all we have for testimony. So that's available. And in fact, their testimony would be on the website now too.
So I did see that. What I did not see was any of the verbal testimony that was given. I know that we can go back and watch the YouTube, but I didn't know if the analyst had taken notes of any of the verbal testimony. I know the Island Institute, for example, testified, but it's not available to read online because they didn't submit a document. I was just curious if that was still available, if there was a more robust summary of the public comments, or sorry, the public testimony than what is available online.
Good question. Okay.
If I may
Go ahead,
answer,
Lynn.
Senator, I do take notes during public hearings. I do not always, I do try and take copious notes. In this bill, I have looked at I did not take copious notes of what the proponents said. I did take notes of what MMA said. So, and I can summarize testimony in my bill analysis if, generally my idea is if a majority of people in a committee find that helpful, I am more than happy to do that for future bill analysis. So that's just as a side. Future, I am more than happy to do that for you all. Specifically to this, I did not take notes on the testimony of the proponents, just from MMA.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And then just one more clarifying question about the training. So this training is currently available and it is currently optional for harbor masters to take it. Is that correct? I think this question is to the sponsor.
Okay, Representative McCray, go ahead. And Representative McDonald, maybe you can put your hand down while she's answering, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The basic is available. The idea is not to, I would characterize it differently than Representative Fockingham did. The idea is that this is a professional position, and the association and those who testified in favor And there is testimony from the Island Institute that was written that I have a copy of anyway. It's because the role is more and more critical and more responsible to increase the making sure that harbor masters are up to date in the information, and it reflects changes from climate change, from the more complex responsibilities. I wonder, Senator, if we could ask Darren Granata to comment. He's in the waiting room and is the Vice President of the Harbor Master Association and could answer questions of this nature.
Any objections from the committee? Nope. Linda, could you bring him in, please? And in
As
the
we
queue,
speak.
I have Representative Hutchins and
So I'm still
Warren.
not clear on the training. I can't vote on this until I know what I'm voting on.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
probably next.
Yeah.
Hold on just a sec. All right. Let's see. Like your name's covered. I just have Darren. I'll just say, go ahead, Darren. Did you hear and can you answer Representative McCrae's question?
Can I ask my question?
Yes, just, I don't think you,
Okay, so what I'm trying to determine is what is currently offered. So currently, all harbor masters take the basic training, and that is mandatory. And the advanced training is optional and already currently available. Is that the case?
Yeah, Representative Donald, let me answer that question for you. So under the current statute, upon 1 year of appointment, once the harbor master is appointed, upon 1 year of appointment, statutorily, they must come to the basic class and become certified at the basic level. At the present time, the advanced class is completely optional. The issue that we have run into is harbor masters will come to training the first year, and then we will never see them again for 25 years. It's a very dynamic and diverse industry. It's changing, daily and monthly. And the thought process behind this was because this is a professional job, that they need to continue to have continuing education to maintain the certification and maintain with the pulse of what's going on at the working waterfront level, not only for the mooring issue, but the working waterfront, the fishermen. We're trying to be a partner with DMR and help DMR get their message out too. And that's part of our harbor masters are ambassadors for the harbor, but they also work alongside local town officials and government officials and the state to get information out. So the way the bill would assist us is it would give us the ability to spread that information and train our harbor masters at more of a frequent nature, so that they're not trained one time for 25 years and we never see them again. And to be very honest with you, from the association level, we're really not opposed whether this goes to a biannual continuing education or every 3 years, because we understand the issues that and the challenges that are put in front of us with the island community, the Down East community. I do know that at the board of directors level, we've had significant conversations about this bill. If this bill passes, I can assure you that we've already contacted some venues to make sure that we can get the continuing education in an online platform to avoid the travel and the lodging cost and the remoteness for some people that this is a challenge for. So we're very in tune to that. I think with today's technology, as we've seen over the last 10 months, with a Zoom platform or some of these virtual platforms, we can accomplish the same issue as an in-person training to make sure that these people are kept current.
Thank you. And I would like to make an amendment that we change this to every 3 years.
okay. 1 sec here, let me get organized again. Okay. You want to just hold a second on that to hear some more questions that were raised around that issue, or do you want to just put the amendment out right now? Representative McDonald.
I'm happy to put the amendment out right now. If people have additional questions before we do that, we can do that as well. I'll leave that to your discretion.
There's a couple. Let's just do it. We're not going to forget you. And Representative Hutchins has had his hand up for quite a while. Go ahead, Representative Hutchins. Is it about this?
Yes, yeah, basically it is. It's very much the two main type of thing, and what Billy Bob was representing, talking about the small communities, certainly not needing this advanced training. As a selectman in the town where I live, I was selectman for 11 years, chairman for 9, which made me the harbor master for 9 years. I didn't need that training because it's a little small community with a small harbor. And I still wouldn't need that training if I was still a harbor master. So we either need to divide this out maybe and have another amendment to have it for communities that need the advanced training, and they should decide that if they need it. But certainly the small communities don't need the advanced training, and chances are the powers that be that appoint harbor masters know someone well enough to appoint them to take care of the small communities. Again, like I say, that aren't going to require especially the advanced training. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I have Representative Thorne and Representative Fockingham in the queue here. Director of Marine Resources, actually Deputy Commissioner Meredith Mendelson, has been waiting, and I think she has something to offer about this. It's been a bit, so I'm going to let her in for a minute, and if it's not about this directly, we'll ask her to come back in a minute. But if Linda could let her in for just a minute, and then leave her here in case it's not relevant to this discussion directly at the moment. Hello. You're muted.
I'm very sorry, Senator Miramont. Just as you started talking, my pellet delivery started and I couldn't hear anything for a few minutes, so I don't know what your question was, and I apologize.
So I had you with a hand raised, and
that was a mistake. I apologize.
About this issue.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to raise my hand. I apologize. That was
good. But I knew, Deputy Commissioner, we want you right in here if you have something to offer. So glad you're here. Thanks. Good luck with the pellets, and we'll.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Good to see
the distraction.
Okay, Representative Thorne, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question, I'm not sure who it's for, whether it be Representative McCray, Ms. Mendelson, or Mr. Granata. I'm just wondering what precipitated this bill. What was the need for it? Was there something dangerous that was happening throughout the harbors of Maine that required this action, or is it just a preemptive ability to foresee problems down the future that may arise by harbor masters not receiving this frequency of training?
Okay, who's going to answer?
Could I defer to Mr. Granata?
Okay, Mr. Granata, go ahead.
Representative Thorne, I think there's been a few things that have precipitated this training. We've had a few incidences in the last, since I've been involved in the association, about the last 10 or 11 years. We've had a few instances where harbor masters have given misinformation that has resulted in some incidents of boats breaking free, some pollution issues with DEP. We've also had a few issues very, very recently of abandoned watercraft that have sunk in the major, in the federal channel or in the main channel in and out of an island. And the town is calling us, asking questions of how do we handle this? So we've looked at it over the last 2 or 3 years. We've talked to the association. We've discussed it with the board of directors, and it was the majority of the association agreed that the continuing education factor was very, very important for the harbor masters. I am very sympathetic to Representative Falkingham and Representative Hutchins' concerns about these small harbors. But some of those harbors that we're speaking about, these very small harbors, are the harbors that we're getting questions from after we don't see these people for 5 or 10 years. And that's why we try to present this bill, one, to make sure that we can train everybody, keep everybody up to speed on the current climate. But at the same time, there have been some incidents that have precipitated this type of engagement to ask, the town's called us and said, our harbor master doesn't have any idea what to do with this. So we've turned around and said, okay, we'll help you, no problem. Put them in touch with the proper agency, the state agency, the federal agency, whatever that may be. And it hasn't been just 1 or 2 harbors. It's been, numerous harbors throughout the state over a few years that have asked specific questions that the harbor master should have known the answer or known where to get it. And that's not his fault. That's why we're here for the association, because we're here to assist the town and to assist the harbor master and support him 100%. But we just felt that a continuing education aspect would help facilitate a lot of that for the town. And it will also decrease the liability on the town. I know that we've had a few instances where, towns have had some significant issues, and, people have asked questions of how the harbor master has been trained, and is he trained? And, if it gets into a legal aspect, I think that if we're doing a great disservice to our harbor masters and our towns if we train a person one time and we let them go for 25 or 30 years without any knowledge of change or any knowledge of what else is going on.
Thanks, Mr. Granata. And Representative Buckingham. So if you have a follow-up, Representative Thorne, to your question.
Yes, if I may, Chair. Just a quick follow-up. I mean, you mentioned continuing education, Mr. Granata. Is that something that, I kind of see this as penalizing every single harbor master for a couple instances of either lack of retention or supplying updates? Is there something that's done by the department to send out updates currently to harbor masters to give them this updated information?
And we do. We send out everything that we get comes through the association, and stuff is sent out, pretty much on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Updates and certain scopes of what is changing. When we get information from the Army Corps of Engineers about federal anchorages, we forward that out. When we get information from DEP or submerged lands, we send that out. So the information is flowing out. The issue is that sometimes we're not sure if it's understood or perceived, or if they have any questions. We don't get a lot of feedback on that. And it's not really a penalty for everybody. We're just trying to maintain a professional standard is what we're trying to maintain.
Thank you.
And Representative Buckingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have some perspectives on this. First, there's ways to get that information to these people. It could be newsletters or sent out in packets. Here's information you should know, new information, anything like that. The other thing is these trainings, if you make people go to these trainings, they're just going to go to them as a requirement of basically being forced into doing it. If a harbor master wants to be engaged and be up to date and be on top of this stuff, they're going to do that already and I don't think you're going to gain anything by forcing the ones that don't want to be there, because they're not going to retain any of the knowledge, especially if it's through an online platform or whatever. So I think that giving that information to them like that. But I do have a few technical questions, and for the harbor master that's on right now. What is the cost of the program? What is the length of the program? And also, what is the salary of the harbor masters down there? Like for example, what's his salary? I'd like to know that.
Okay, I can answer all those.
Mr. Canada.
Yes, sir. Presently, the training class is annually every year at this point, and we run a basic and advanced class. They're two separate classes. We do merge the classes together for some stuff, but then we break them apart. The cost right now associated for that class is about $350. And with that $350, I can give you a quick synopsis of how that works. Usually the class starts on a Wednesday, sometimes around 11 o'clock in the morning, because we give people time to travel. We're respectful of that. We run the training class from 11 right through till about 5 o'clock or so. We have some breaks. We feed them dinner. We come back in the evening for some more training or a meeting. Then usually the Thursday of that section is an 8 to 5. Sometimes we will have an evening class or an evening meeting. And then on Friday, it's usually from 8 o'clock until noontime, and we're out of there. With the $350, that includes for the 3 days, all their meals, all their lodging, all their training requirements. So that's the present basic advanced class that we run now. And then as of last year, we implemented a second class that we would do a one-day class in the month of October or November as continuing education time. And we do that at no cost. We eat the complete cost of that because we felt that it was important to train our harbor masters and keep them current. So we eat the cost of that one. I'm not sure how that will look in the future, but we still plan to do 2 training classes a year so that we can maintain people's certifications. As far as the salary, it's a very hot button topic right now. I can tell you that there's harbor masters in the state that make $500 a year as a stipend. I can tell you there's some that make $3,000 a year as a stipend. And I can tell you that there's others that make a full salary with benefits up to and including $75,000 or $80,000 a year. So the salary range is it's a very unique question, but it's very unique to each municipality and what they have for responsibility and what they have for harbor management, moorings fees, waterfront access fees, and what they pay. We actually have done a salary study recently within the last few months that we're looking at, because we wanted to look at that to see exactly what people are getting, i.e. benefits, retirement, vehicles, salaries. Are they seasonal? Are they full-time year round? So we'll probably have a lot of those numbers, I'm guessing probably within the next few weeks, because we put a deadline on it as the end of February, just so we could capture some data reference to the salary. But the salary range is all over the map. I would be in saying the salary range, when I say 75 or 80,000, I'm talking probably about 2 or 3, 4 harbor masters in the state. I would say the average range of these salaries are somewhere between 40, 50, and 60,000 at a percentage. But the larger number of the salaries are probably in the lower stipend issue of $5,000 or $10,000. And just to add one other thing, just so I can put this in perspective, I know that the questions about reimbursement with the bill and the town pays, does the town pay, does the harbor master pay? I will tell you in the last 10 years, I can probably count on one hand how many personal checks we have received or personal payments. And of those personal payments, they have asked for receipts because the town has reimbursed them. So the reimbursement, the towns are paying for the training 100%. And the people that have been paying with personal checks out of their own account have been doing it with the onus that they're getting reimbursed by the town.
You. Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for this comprehensive explanation of this process. So our harbor masters have a tremendous number of responsibilities, and I have no issue with professional training and maintaining a professional standard for them. If there are no other questions, I would like to go ahead and make a motion that incorporates both Representative McCray's amendment and my amendment into one motion, and make a motion to pass this bill as amended.
Okay, we have a motion ought to pass as amended. Do we have a second? And we can have Lynn read back after. If we have a second, we'll have her read back the amendments. So we'll give her a chance to write them down.
Am I allowed to second as the sponsor?
I do not know a rule against that. Lynn? Nope. Okay, we have a motion and a second. And Lynn, are you caught up to read back the motion to the committee?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to screen share so that everyone can see the sponsor's amendment. And I believe that what Representative McDonald's amendment would be to the continuing education section, which is 1B. And that it would require the continuing education to occur every 3 years as opposed to annually.
Correct, except right now, I think it's every other year, and this would move it to 3 years.
Yes, you're right. And I don't know if that, for some reason, I can't see what I'm sharing while I'm sharing it. So I don't know if you can see subsection 1B, continuing education, but there would be an amendment into that to remove the every other year to every 3 years.
We can see that section, and that is noted. And okay, and we're removing that language. Always better to remove language than add it. Just gives lawyers more things to argue about. So I like that. And that was the whole thing. Okay, Representative Fockingham has a question. Should I leave the text? Should I leave the text up, or is this something different than what she was just pointing out in the bill, Representative Fockingham?
Can you take it down?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks. With where I was headed on this bill and what I just learned really made it even worse for me to. Some of these harbor masters get $500. This course is $350. It's not only that, but I mean, this is a 3-day course. They go in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's just too much. This is too much of a burden. It increases either, if God forbid, if the harbor master had to do it, how are you going to get somebody to do this? You got to understand what we're looking at for harbors down here. This isn't Portland, Rockland, these $50,000, $60,000. That's, I mean, yeah, I can see why these guys are doing it. Guys that have cruise ships coming in and stuff. But when you get somebody already to sacrifice, to volunteer to say, yeah, I'll be the harbor master for South Woolsboro. It's got 20 moorings of lobster boats. Everybody, is familiar with the harbor. They don't even need a harbor master if it wasn't a state law that they had to have one. This is most of the harbors in Maine are like this size. it's just too much. It's too much to make these guys do this. They already do the basic course. What if you want to have them do a refresher? Why do they have to do an advanced course? Why aren't they doing the basic course every? Why wouldn't you propose something like every 5 years they do the basic course again? Well, why would we not propose something like this than this burdensome course? It's just too much. I hope you guys understand how bad this is for small rural harbors, and I hope you guys will vote no on this. Maybe some work could be done to improve it, but this is too much. This is too far. So that's where I'm at on it. I hope you guys will understand what I'm saying here. I hope you'll understand what I'm saying here.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about for some of the smaller harbors, but I also know that some of these folks, it becomes their way of doing a service that they like. And since it is a requirement, and this law is not trying to undo the requirement that there is a harbor master designated, we had this same problem with airports, and they said remote airports don't need one, but it's required. And so the town would park all their construction equipment on an airport saying, well, it's snowy right now. And then the snow would melt and someone would come and land and almost die. I don't know what the direct correlation is with that little story, but it turned out to be very important. And I think this is another case like that. I have Representative McDonald and Representative Hutchins and then Representative Fockingham.
Thank you, Chair. To Representative Falkingham's point, a harbor being small does not exempt it from needing to have a well-trained harbor master. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hutchins.
Thank you. A small harbor probably does have a good harbor master. It's somebody that's been familiar with it probably for many years, and he really doesn't need the state to tell him, what he needs to do for a small harbor. I agree there are differences. There are probably quite a number of harbors, say west of the Penobscot River, that don't need a harbor master. East of the Penobscot River, there would be hardly any that need a harbor master that isn't familiar with what they're already doing. So requiring extended 3-day training for people in those types of communities is asking the community to raise more taxes to pay for a training facility and a lot of that's done right in my area, right at the Maine Maritime Academy. And so I can, I know they do the 3-day. I've driven around the 100 or so vehicles parked up on Battle Avenue so as to be able to do that. So I know there's a lot of people that attend these things. But again, I can't support a one size fits all. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Can we please stop referring to all harbor masters as men? Our harbor master in Stonington is a woman.
Hold on. It's not a conversation. Okay, and Representative Fockingham was next, and then Representative McDonald. Go ahead, Representative Fockingham.
Was Representative Alley trying to get in? Because if he was, I'd go ahead and let him speak if he was trying to talk.
Representative Alley does not have his hand up. Is it because you didn't put it up, or what's happening?
No.
No, he's all set. Representative Fockingham, go ahead.
Okay. I'll go ahead and put my hand down. Thank you, Chair. And your point's well taken about harbor masters that are taking the job to do basically for self-interest, but this doesn't address that problem. Basically, if the theory there, as I see it, is you make a course burdensome so the guy gives it up. So, the guy that's doing himself favors, giving himself the good mooring or helping his, friends out in the harbor, doesn't continue doing that because this burdensome course. Well, then you replace them with somebody else who's doing it for their own self-interest. It doesn't change that. This doesn't change that situation. Either, they take the course for the sole purpose of continuing to do themselves favors, or somebody else takes it to do themselves favors. That's a totally separate issue that's not addressed by this. But for the vast majority of harbor masters, to travel and be somewhere to take a 3-day long course is more than necessary for what they need. That can be covered by sending them the materials, sending them whatever information they need to have at their disposal, and let them be. And to say that somebody has been the harbor master for 25 years without getting training and therefore they don't know what they're doing is false. Most of the people that have been around the water and been around the harbors and know how to set moorings, know where boats should go, and have spent their lives on a boat and around harbors their whole life, know more about the harbors than they're ever going to learn from these guys coming down to a 3-day course with a bunch of flatlanders that have been on a couple little bass boats for trotting around the harbor. These guys are not uninformed or doing a bad job because they haven't taken the course. So that's
it is
that's
germane.
false.
Yeah.
It is germane to that. I'm saying that these guys
You
are.
don't have to argue what I've agreed with. You don't have to argue.
Okay. I'm
you very
saying
much.
not only are they qualified,
Point of order.
I would say that they're well qualified.
All right. Now, Representative Hutchins was next. If your hand's up because you wanted to speak. If not,
Oh, maybe it's because I didn't put it back down. I'm still not in favor of the bill.
no, I thought it might be that. So if you could put that down, thank you. All right. And Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to reiterate, can we please stop referring to harbor masters as all men, because there are multiple women that are harbor masters throughout the state of Maine. And also, I would like to move the question.
Okay, I always like that as a last resort, but I have not seen any hands. So I do think discussion is ended, and unless anybody needs to caucus, which seems unlikely, it is time for a vote. And if you could put your hand, thank you very much. Okay. So the motion is ought to pass as amended. We've read back the amendments, and all those in favor, and we'll do this by roll call in our abbreviated format as we have before. So all those in favor of ought to pass as amended, please acknowledge when Linda calls on you.
Again, we'll go with the horseshoe, starting in reverse. Representative Stanley, how do you vote? You're muted. You're muted, Representative Stanley.
No,
Representative Hutchins.
No.
Representative McDonald.
Yay.
Representative Alley.
No.
Representative Falkingham.
No.
Representative McCreight.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Senator Miramont.
Yes.
Senator Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Rosen.
No.
Representative Hepler. Has Representative Hepler left? She must have, sorry.
Not here.
And Representative Thorne.
No.
Okay, so we have 4 in favor of ought not to pass as amended, and 5 no, and 7 no, and 3 absent.
Okay, so this one could change. And Representative Fockingham.
I move ought not to pass.
It's not done yet. Hold on. All right. I'm just going to hold there for a minute. All right, well, seeing no one else joining us, the motion fails. Okay, Representative Fockingham, you have a new motion?
I move ought not to pass.
That.
Go ahead. All right. It's moved on not to pass. And did I hear a second?
Yes, I seconded it. Sherm Hutchins.
There you are. Thank you. Any discussion? And Linda, please take the roll.
I will. Representative Thorne,
Yes.
Senator Rosen,
Yes.
Senator Maxman,
No.
Senator Miramont,
No.
Representative McCreight. You're muted, Senator, Representative.
No.
Representative Fockingham,
Yes.
Representative Alley,
Yes.
Representative McDonald,
No.
Representative Hutchins,
Yes.
and Representative Stanley.
Yes.
So we have 6 in favor of ought not to pass and 4 against.
Or against ought not to pass.
And 3 absent.
Yes, passes, and people still have time to vote. So not to pass, it succeeds at this point. Representative McCreight.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment that we devolved a bit into some what I would call name calling, and I would ask that we be very respectful to everybody, whether they're here or not here. And other than that, I appreciate the robust discussion. And we'll see, we have people who are still going to vote. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Good reminder. Please try to be polite about people and the way you characterize them. Remember that when we have different viewpoints, it doesn't make us wrong or bad. That's a great reminder. And we'll move on now. That closes the work session on LD 152. We'll move on to LD 77. An act to authorize the Department of Marine Resources to charge an application fee for entering a lottery for a scallop license presented by Representative McDonald of Stonington. And this opens the work session. Lynn, go ahead. And you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have a question about LD 152.
Okay.
And my question is on the ought not to pass vote.
Yes.
What is the minority report? So I don't know if you need to reopen 152, answer my question, and close. But my question is, what would be the minority report for the ought not to pass vote
Yes, and let's just make sure whether we need to or not. I'm closing the hearing, the work session on LD 77 momentarily. Moving back to the work session on LD 152 is open again for the purposes of clarifying that question. Open. The question is, what is the minority report? Representative McCray.
Ought to pass as amended.
Okay, Representative McCray has said that the minority report is ought to pass as amended, and I will let her be the spokesperson, I believe. Anybody object? No. Okay, that closes the public hearing. That closes the work session on LD 152. We will move on again to the work session on LD 77. If that answers all your questions, Lynn. It does, good. LD 77 work session is open again. Lynn's going to give us a briefing. Representative McDonald has her hand up. Is that current or left over?
It's current.
It is current. Okay. Do you want to let the analyst do her presentation, or would you like to speak first?
Could I speak really quick first?
I think you could. I don't
Thank
object.
you. So I'm just going to offer my apologies. Unfortunately, I have to leave the hearing. I am the sponsor of this bill, but it is a department bill. So I'm going to turn it over to their very capable hands, and I will see the rest of you at another time. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Okay, Lynn, it's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. LD 77 is an act to authorize the department to change the application fee for entering a lottery for the Scallop license. This bill is very straightforward. I did not find any issues with it. It changes the application fee, it allows the department to charge a $50 fee to enter a lottery for a Scallop license. And as I said, I did not find any potential issues, technical problems, and there were no questions from the committee.
Great. Okay. So committee, any questions, discussion? Okay. Director Gilbert, did you have anything to add? Okay,
No.
good. Any motions to be made?
I'll make a motion ought to pass.
Senator Rosen made a motion ought to pass. Any second?
I second that.
Seconded by Representative Alley. Any discussion? Seeing none. Linda, please take the vote.
Alrighty, I'll start with Representative Stanley. You're muted, Representative.
Could I get the way it's worded again, please?
Sure. The motion, you mean? The motion's not
Yes.
passed by Senator Rosen.
Basically, the bill wording.
Yes.
Yes, I can do that for you. This bill adds a new subsection to the Title 12, and it says, if the Scallop license limited entry system established under subsection 3 is conducted through a lottery, the commissioner may charge a non-refundable lottery application fee not to exceed $50. An application fee collected under this subsection must be deposited in the Scallop Research Fund established in section 67929-A.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. You got that, Linda. Good.
Yes, I
Thank
do.
you.
Representative Hutchins,
Yes.
Representative Alley,
Yes.
Representative McCreight,
Yes.
Senator Miramont,
Yes.
Senator Maxman,
Yes.
Senator Rosen,
Yes.
and Representative Thorne.
Yes.
And
So that's
Linda,
8 and,
Linda,
has
I believe
Okay.
you missed Representative Fockingham.
oh, I am so sorry, Representative. I did. Representative Falkingham. You're muted, Representative.
Aye.
So that would be 9 in favor of ought not to pass and 4 absent. It's unanimous for those here.
okay, unanimously ought to pass, does pass, and I don't know that there's a need for, I mean, Representative Hutchins has his hand up. Is that,
Sorry, I didn't remember to take it down.
great? Okay, so that wraps up the vote. Those folks can vote. I'm sure this one will be fine the way it is, and that takes care of too many computers going. LD 77 is closed and will be sent forward. So that's all I have for our work sessions. And then we're going to go into our meet and greet with, we don't have any in the morning. They start at 1 o'clock. Hold on, let's see, Representative McCray.
We do have one briefing from about Land for Maine's future, and I don't know if from Sarah Demers.
Okay, so you're both right. You're trying to tell me that it's not a meet and greet, and you're trying to tell me that it is a briefing. So everybody's right. I love that. No, Lynn's still shaking her head. Okay, Lynn.
I'm sorry. I believe that there was a briefing from the department this morning as well.
It's
Not
after.
on. It's after the Maine Land for Maine Futures. Okay, thank you. I made the calendar wrong. Thank you.
Well, something else is going on today. Anyway, Representative Fockingham.
Thank you, Senator. I just had something that I was going to bring up in my introduction, but we were running late. But since we're in a break, I just wanted to let Lynn know that the Republican members would like to have an email the morning of committee with the Zoom link so that it could be at the top of the list. And I know, Senator, you were speaking when I came on late, so I don't know if that's something you touched on or addressed, but and maybe all the committee would like to have that as well. But the Republican members would like to have that Zoom link emailed to them in the morning so it could be there at the top of their email list so it doesn't get buried. That's all. Just wanted to jump in on that. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Representative. I thought it'd be smoother if only the Democrats got that link. So I'm just kidding. Okay. Yes, and Linda has that set to go out automatically, and some people are getting it, some aren't. I didn't. Representative Rosen didn't.
I didn't.
Right, and so we are checking with IT, and we are going to make this work somehow. But it's in process. We did talk about that, but thank you for reminding us, and we will get on that and hopefully get it all fixed by Tuesday, so that an hour before the meeting, it'll go out again. It doesn't mean it won't go out the day before, but that hour before, we should be able to look right there at 8 o'clock and it says, here it is. So I also found, to be confirmed next Tuesday, I took a calendar link that was sent at one point with this Zoom link, and I put it into every Tuesday until May. And I clicked it today and it brought me into this meeting. Linda was told that it'll be a different link every week. We're going to prove that. Next Tuesday, I'm going to click into the one that's in my calendar to see if it works over and over. And if it does, I'm going to suggest that you do the same thing so it's always there in your calendar. But we're also going to straighten out this 1 hour before. So Representative McCray, I have to check in on a bill over in Judiciary. So could you take over for this part?
Sure,
please?
thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And I also will be leaving at 11:45 if we're still on. So I'll be back for the 1 o'clock part of this meeting, and I'll see you then if I don't see you.
Okay,
Any more time?
Senator,
Thank
are you thinking we'll take a break before the whale briefing and have that at 1 rather than just keep going?
That's the way it's scheduled, right?
Yeah.
1 o'clock?
Lynn's
Commissioner shaking
her
his head, Lynn shaking her head. Hello, Representative Bloom, want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm late. Wait a minute, let me start my video. Hi, thank you for allowing me in. Anyway, I'm sorry I missed the work sessions. Are you all done, or I just got in? Are you, and then the whale, I really want to see the whale briefing.
Okay, so yes, we've just finished the work sessions. There's a couple votes for you. Two are going to probably be unanimous. One is divided at this point. And so you talk to Linda when you get a
Thank you.
chance. We're just discussing whether the whale briefing is now or at 1 or now after another piece we're talking about. I can't tell you. So listen for a second. We'll find out because we're just going to bring in everybody to answer that one. So who's first?
Well, Sarah Demers is next on Land for Maine's Future, and Deirdre's going to follow her up real quickly. And then the whales. And Commissioner, do you want to go ahead on the whales as soon as the other is finished?
Yeah, I am not available to do a briefing at 1 o'clock, so I would need to do it now.
Okay, let's do that.
I have to be, I have an executive committee meeting for ASMFC at noontime.
Okay.
So I don't know if it
Well,
would be better to swap
fortunately, we are done. So you're okay if we have a 10-15 minute briefing first before the whales?
Yeah, knowing that I have a hard stop at noontime.
Okay. Okay. Lynn, does that, Sarah, does that give you enough time, or do you want to wait till after?
More than enough time.
Okay, good. Let's go ahead.
Great. So I want to thank Representative McCreight for inviting me to present to you all today about the Land for Maine's Future program. For those of you that may not be aware, Commissioner Kelleher is the chair of the Land for Maine's Future board, and he has been just incredibly supportive of our work. I'm going to share my screen and run you through a very brief.
Ms. Demers, I am so sorry to interrupt you, really. Can you give us just 1 second? It'll save probably half an hour and a lot of running around by people if Representative Bloom votes with our clerk.
Oh.
If you don't mind.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, this is great. Linda, go ahead. It'll just be quick and we appreciate it.
Okay. On LD 106, the motion was ought to pass as amended. Do you wish to vote yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And on
LD 152, which is the act to address training requirements for harbor masters, the ought to pass failed, the ought not to pass at this point is leading and passed.
Yeah, I'm going with the majority.
You want it not to pass?
I'm sorry. You know what? This is not. I need more time if we could possibly do that. I'm sorry. I can't do this right now. I don't have anything in front of me.
No problem at all. It takes time to catch up when we have all these other committees going on. So I have obviously not helped a bit. Back to Representative McCreight, Ms. Demers, the presentation. I am going to Judiciary. See ya.
Thank you. Sarah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. So as I was saying, I'm just going to quickly share my screen and run through a brief overview of the Land for Maine's Future program, and then Commissioner Kelleher or Deirdre will run through a couple of slides specific to the Working Waterfront Access Protection Program, which is jointly administered between LMF and DMR. And if I can just give me a second. Hopefully you will be able to.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So as you can see from my slides, the Land for Maine's Future program is housed within the Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. The Land for Maine's Future Fund was suggested in 1986 by the Governor's Special Commission on Outdoor Recreation in Maine. The program was officially established in '87 when Maine voters approved a $35 million bond. Sorry about that, a little delay with my computer. The Land for Maine's Future program, if you're not aware, purchases lands of statewide significance initially. Now we are doing local and regional significance as well. The bond was used to ensure public access to diverse outdoor recreation opportunities and to protect scenic and natural environment. In the very beginning of the program, the Working Waterfront Access Protection Program was not established. That came a little bit later. Some sort of iconic LMF investments include Shackford Head, Dodge Point, Mount Kineo. There are quite a few that I'm sure are familiar. The Cutler Coast, the Bold Coast, that was an LMF investment as well. As I said, the program is located within the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. We have a director with 2 FTEs. The governor appoints the board, which consists of the commissioners from ACF, DMR, IFNW, and 6 public members as well. Accomplishments of the Land for Maine's Future program. LMF, as you may know, is Maine's primary funding source for the conservation of and public access to natural areas for recreation, hunting, fishing, wildlife habitat, ecological functions, and scenic beauty. We have accomplished projects in all of Maine's 16 counties, 62 water access sites, and those can be trailered launches to hand carry sites, municipally owned or owned by the state or a land trust. We have put agricultural easements on 42 farms, totaling over 9,000 acres. We've contributed to the protection of 27 commercial working waterfront properties along the coast. Over 1,000 miles of shoreline on rivers, lakes, ponds, and 60 miles of coastline are protected with LMF funding. We've contributed to 158 miles of former railroad corridors into recreation trails, and in total, over 617,000 acres of conservation and recreation lands, nearly half of that being working farms and working forests. And when we talk about working farms and working forests, we're talking about conservation easements. So those lands are still privately owned and managed. However, they do have restrictions on them that prevent it from being converted to other uses. Land for Maine's Future program is a competitive grant program. The board publishes a workbook outlining the requirements and funding priorities. Some of the key considerations for LMF: we only deal with willing sellers. The purchase price must be determined by an appraisal. Public access is required, except on working waterfront and farmland properties where there are conflicts. Hunting, fishing, and trapping may not be prohibited, period. Municipal approval required when property interests represent more than 1% of a municipal state valuation or county in the LERC jurisdiction. Rigorous due diligence process to protect state investment includes surveys, title work, just making sure that the property is fully owned in the end, with no issues that compromise the public's ability to access that property. And all of our conservation priorities are derived through a public process. LMF supports Maine's economy by investing in opportunities for outdoor recreation, hunting, fishing, marine fishing and aquaculture, agriculture, and forest products. LMF projects, our investments generate approximately $3 of match for every $1 of LMF contribution. And Maine Land Trust, this is a question that often comes up. Maine Land Trusts report that more than 95% of the land conserved by land trusts is on the tax rolls. On most of the remaining acres, they are making a payment in lieu of taxes. One indication of LMF's contribution to the economy is the recent announcement that Maine State Parks had a record-breaking year in 2020 with over 3 million visitors. And I would say similar experiences are being reported by land trusts and municipalities as well. Looking to the future, the Land for Maine's Future Board is kind of contemplating climate change and how LMF will be a strong partner in ensuring climate resilience. We have the 30 by 30 initiative, where we're assessing both the quality and quantity of conservation lands. We're undertaking a review of conservation accomplishments in order to help us redefine priorities. We're working with the Conservation Task Force, which generated a number of recommendations, and looking to see how LMF can participate in those recommendations. And we've recently conducted a subcommittee review and recommendations on LMF program policies and practices. I'm going to turn over to Commissioner Kelleher. And Commissioner Kelleher, I can move the slides for you if that's helpful.
That's great. I'm seeing double slides on my screen here. I don't know if you can go to full screen. I'm having trouble reading it when they're small.
I will do my best. Can you see that?
You just, yeah, oh, there we go. Perfect. There we go. I can see it. I need new glasses. Good morning, everybody. As Sarah said, I am the current chair of the Land for Maine Future Program, and have the privilege of overseeing and directing some of the activities within LMF. And I can tell you for certain the value of this program overall is very beneficial to the state. In particular, of interest to this committee is the Working Waterfront Access Protection Program. Deidre Gilbert, who Deidre is on, and she can help answer any questions as well, has been the primary point of contact within the agency for this part of the program. The purpose of Working Waterfront is to provide protection to strategically significant working waterfront properties whose continued availability to commercial fishing businesses is essential to the long-term future of the economic sector. And I can tell you that many of the projects or lands or businesses that are protected under this covenant would be under a great threat of conversion if it wasn't for the working waterfront money being invested. The process works fairly simply at LMF. Once the board agrees, the LMF board issues a call for proposals. This is a competitive process. Unlike other areas of LMF, the Department of Marine Resources has a review committee that convenes to review all of the projects that come in. And then they make a recommendation to the LMF board, who selects finalists and makes preliminary financial awards. The standardized appraisal determines the covenant price and value. Mixed uses are possible, and we do have some properties under the covenant that are mixed uses, but it has to be compatible with the fisheries that are there. The due diligence completed by the applicant and approved by LMF, and then the restricted covenants in any, I believe those right of ways are signed by the owner, the grantor, and the state, which would be the holder of the covenant. And then the property owner retains the right of ownership. Ownership needs permission for significant future improvements regarding change of sales. There's been very little activity around these changing hands, but when they do, we want to ensure that they do remain in the working waterfront program. So it's really important that the state retains that right of first refusal or even ownership. Next, is there another slides? So here's this. I can't see the bottom of the slides now on my screen. Let me see if I can. Maybe it's my view. Nope. Here's just a summary of the properties that have been protected since 2008. And it gives you, at the bottom, you can see a total miles protected. It gives you an idea based on the counties that obviously not all of them are coastal, not all working waterfronts are in coastal counties. It gives you an idea. From a mileage perspective, it's not a lot of miles, but from a job protection standpoint, it's very, very important. Next slide. And here as it is just highlighted on the map. The dark brown areas where there are more than one project, and then the other ones, the lighter brown, shows where there is a single project. But as you can see, it's pretty good coverage from all the way from York County all the way down to Eastport in Lubec. And I think that is it. And thank you.
That's what we got for you.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out. Sarah's been, Sarah, how long have you been the director?
Approaching 6 years.
Yeah, Sarah came to the program when she was very engaged with it. She was formerly with Inland Fisheries and Wildlife and came over. We're very lucky to have her. And she has hired 2 phenomenal staff members who I think have moved the program in really positive direction internally. So we're really lucky to have a solid core staff to help run this program. So with that, I'll shut up and be happy to answer any questions.
I see Representative Bloom has a question.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Kelleher, the definition of working waterfront according to LMFs is that it has to have access to commercial fishing. Isn't there other definitions of working waterfronts? I'm trying to clear this up for me. But in an LMF, it's quite clear what it is, as you just described. But what about other kind of port work? Is that ever considered working waterfront in terms of in terms of something else? I mean, it seems to that term is used in many different ways, it seems to me.
Yeah, thanks, Representative. I'm not sure of any specific definitions around working waterfront, but I can tell you for us, it really focuses around the commercial fishing aspect as well as aquaculture and the benefits of that working component. I do remember years ago, there was a question of whether the party charter boat fleet should be covered under working waterfront. It's never moved in that direction. And I can't recall, Deidre can correct me if I'm wrong, I can't recall if we've ever seen any applications associated with that. But I would just say beyond that the state does have a very robust water access program, both at IF&W and through Bureau of Parks and Lands for water access for boat ramps. So any issues around activity associated with recreational party charter fishing is really covered quite well with those other programs.
May I follow up, please? So what about industrial aspects like all the waterfront support for offshore wind, for example?
We would not consider that working waterfront.
So is there another word that we could use then for that type of thing? Industrial?
Yeah, whatever you'd like, Representative. I'll let you name it.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the commissioner or Sarah Demers on Land for Maine's future? Representative Hutchins.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It was reported earlier that 95% of land is still on the tax rolls that is in this. And I put on my selectman's hat. And does that mean that 95% keeps a current valuation, or does it pay a fee in lieu of taxes that never rises?
Yeah, it is a mix, Representative, and Sarah probably has more detail on this than I do, but it's certainly a mix of payments in lieu of taxes. We see more and more of that because there is usually a lot of conversations with municipalities about that upfront with the applicants. From a working waterfront perspective, that all remains in the tax roll because it's a covenant. It's still a business. It's still owned by the individuals. It just has a covenant placed on it. So that is not removed from the tax roll, and there's no fee in lieu of.
I think it's important to clarify as well that that figure is one that is generated by the Maine Land Trust Network, and it is respective to land trust held lands. Obviously, anything that's municipally held or held by the state, they're not paying taxes. If you've got a state park, there's some revenue sharing, that kind of thing, but that is really specific to land trust held lands. And I'm happy, I believe they've done a report, and if you'd like a copy of it, I'd be happy to get that to you.
Yeah, Representative Hutchins, I think the other thing that we're seeing more and more of over the last 2 to 4 years is a lot of times the municipalities where these projects are coming from are writing letters of support because of that interaction with the applicant. So, you know, that always makes me frankly feel better that they've taken those tax issues into consideration before those letters are written.
All right, good. Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Representative Hutchins, did you want that list from Ms. Demers?
Yes, I would like that list. That'd be very good.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I'd like to see it too. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Appreciate your flexibility and time.
Thank you all for your time as well.
Okay, up ahead, we have a briefing on whales, which was able to get a view of last night, and we'll get the slightly shorter version today, I guess. And then a short bit of information from Deirdre Gilbert on CARES Act, and I see that Representative Newell is in the attendee room. So at that point, we'll ask her to join us. But for right now, we're talking about whales and all that goes into that. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you. I think Deirdre, nobody lets me touch the technology over here. So I think Deirdre is going to put that up, the slide presentation up. Great. Why don't you go right to the next slide? Whoa. Okay, perfect. I appreciate the opportunity to update the committee on the ongoing issues related to the protection of North Atlantic right whales. There are 2 ongoing actions that are happening simultaneously. The first is the proposed rule. That proposed rule, and we'll get into the details, are what would change the operations of the industry for the next 3 to 5 years. The proposed rule is being developed under the auspices of the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Under the MMPA, there are take reduction teams that are set up, and the large whale take reduction team has been working on these plans since 2018. And that is when you hear this number being bounced around. This 60% risk reduction came out of the take reduction team meetings back in 18. We've held, I don't know how many industry meetings we've held, at least 17 large scale industry meetings, plus multiple zone council meetings and lobster advisory council meetings on this issue, taking input with the idea that Maine would submit a plan to the National Marine Fisheries Service. We have done that and submitted a plan about just over a year ago. As you'll see when we get into the details, much of that plan has been used for the draft that the agency NOAA has put out. The other action is a draft biological opinion. You'll hear me refer to it as a BIOP. The BIOPs are developed under the Federal Endangered Species Act, and they are integral to permitting the federal fishery. So the federal fishery cannot happen unless a BIOP is approved that shows no jeopardy. And I'll get into that in the second part of the presentation. Next slide. This is a chart just to orient you. You'll hear me speak about Area 1. As you can see, Area 1 runs along the coast of Maine, and where 99% of the Maine fishing activity takes place. I think we've only got 1 or 2 federal permit holders that fish in Lobster Management Area 3. And then down around Cape Cod, you'll see the Outer Cape and Lobster Management Area 2. Those areas are also part of the overall plan that I'm going to describe. This is the region that these rules are going to impact. Next slide. So an overview of the proposed rule. The proposed rule has a series of management measures to reduce risk. In total, the preferred alternative in what NOAA has presented as a draft achieves a 64% risk reduction across the Northeast, so across that area that I showed in the previous slide. The total cost of implementation across New England states are estimated in the first year to cost the industry between $6.9 million and $15.4 million. And over the next 6 years, somewhere in the vicinity of $28 to $61 million. That is the cost, direct cost or impact to the industry. Public comment is being received until March 1st, and there is currently scheduled for next week 2 public hearings that will be webinars, obviously not in-person meetings. Next slide.
Before you move on, I had a question about the cost to the industry.
Sure.
Do you mean, I'm wondering about the individual lobster fishermen. Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about state cost, both?
I'm talking about the cost to the industry. So the direct cost to the harvesters based on conversion of gear, lost areas of fishing if there was a closed area, those type of things. We think these numbers are very much underestimated as well.
And they came from?
This comes from, they have a DEIS, which is an economic impact statement that they have to put out with any federal rule. And so these are the numbers that come from the DEIS.
Thank you.
So the main part of the plan that we submitted, and that is now part of the draft plan that NOAA has put out, are around trawling up. And for those that are not used to hearing the term trawling up, when we have, when a lobster harvester sets out gear, they a lot of times will fish more traps on a line. Some fish singles, some fish pairs, but some will fish 5s, 10s, 15s, 20s. So there'll be a buoy, an end line, 10 traps, and another end line buoy. So when we talk about a trawl, that's what we mean by a trawl. So there are exempted areas within the Gulf of Maine, right off the Maine coast. Those exempted areas are defined based on critical habitat, and it roughly follows the 3-mile line off our shores. However, in some areas it comes just inside the 3-mile line, in some areas it's just outside the 3-mile line. So what we have proposed, what the regulations are proposing are status quo, basically in most of state waters. The exemption line to 3 nautical miles in this sliver would be 3 traps on a trawl. And then from 3 to 6 miles, 8 traps on a trawl. 6 to 12 nautical miles, 15 traps on a trawl. And 12 plus nautical miles, 25 traps on a trawl. That is a very large trawl that can be upwards of 3/4 of a mile to a mile in length in some instances. I mentioned that we had a lot of conversations with the zone councils. The zone councils created subcommittees to work on the trawling up scenarios. And every zone has submitted a conservationally equivalent trawling up scenario. And the department will be submitting those in our comments to the agency on their proposed rule. There is also a trawl length equivalency, and I would point you to the 3 to 6 nautical miles, 8 traps on a trawl. What we've suggested, and they did not include, and that we will push back on, is that between 3 and 6, where it says 8 traps on a trawl, we believe an individual should be able to fish 4 traps with a single end line. And that is needed for operational needs and safety needs for some small boats that are fishing just into federal waters. Next slide. The other issue associated with protection of right whales is weak points, so that the lines would break if in fact there was an entanglement. So the main plan, you can see the middle column is the main plan, what we submitted, and then the proposed rule, what the agency has recommended. So I'm not going to go down through those, but you can see the one difference is the exemption line to 3 nautical miles. They're suggesting that there be 2 weak insertions, from one at 25% of the way down the line and the other one at 50% of the way down the line. That's, I'm not sure why they did that, frankly, because most of the areas they're saying exempted waters, this is just 1 week area, and then most of that is still just a very small area. So we'll push back on that a little bit as well. Next slide. So also of a surprise to the department, that the agency went beyond our main plan, included an LMA1 or an Area 1 closure. You can see that closure in the box that's just outside the red lines that follow the coast. The numbers correspond with the Latlawn. So you can see how that runs along the coast, right along just inside the Area 1-3 line. There are, next slide, please. So, I'm sorry, I thought there was a different slide there. Can you go back, Deidre? So this covers zones C, D, and E. I think I said F last night in the LEC meeting, but it covers C, D, and E, and it is for the months of October through January. And I can tell you there is a lot of fishing activity in that area during those months. There are 2 other options associated with this. One is no closure at all. If there was no closure, though, we would have to make up significant risk somewhere else. Or they left open the idea of a trigger mechanism, and that is what the department is currently looking at. Next slide. As I said, the closure is not included in the main plan. It was identified by NOAA as an area of high risk. We disagree with that based on the data that we have and that they have. NOAA estimates that there are 45 vessels impacted. We disagree with that as well. We believe there are many more vessels than that. The trigger approach that I just mentioned could close the area. A closure could be implemented based on future conditions, and that is the area, that is the approach that we are considering, because we need to see some risk reduction out of this, and considering the fact that we've not had an entanglement off Maine in more than a decade. Part of one of the options is ropeless fishing, and the agency, the federal agency, NOAA, is certainly pushing hard to include ropeless fishing. When we'll get to that a little bit more when we start talking about the BIOP. Can you, let's see, next slide, please. Thank you, Kathleen. Also, part of the rule is gear marking, and in order for Maine gear to stand out so it is not linked to entanglements, the DMR advanced gear marking prior to the development of the federal rule. We wanted to get out ahead of this, and we wanted to have a color that was going to be very unique to the state. So in 2020, we went through the rulemaking, and gear marking was implemented back in September of 2020. The proposed rule largely follows Maine's regs, which is good. It is a purple gear mark for Maine harvesters only, federal and state waters. There is a 3-foot gear mark in the top 2 fathoms of the line, and then a 1-foot gear mark in the top, the middle, and the bottom. Gear marking costs to Maine were not part of the DEIS because we did this prior to, but it certainly needs to be a consideration. As the harvesters that are members of this committee will tell you, it is not an insignificant amount of time to put this the gear marks onto the end lines. Next slide. So some common questions that we continue to get from the industry are around the implementation date. Once they go through the rulemaking, when will these rules be put into place? We don't have an answer for the industry. We don't have an answer for you. It's a federal rule. There's no way for us to predict the effective dates. So it's too soon to know when the final measures will go into place. We believe it will likely be a phased-in approach. We certainly are going to comment with input from the industry. The state will be commenting on what is appropriate for operational needs of the industry. The weak point options is also, I mentioned the weak points. Those weak points are areas that will ensure that the rope breaks at 1,700 pounds or less. Erin Summers, one of our senior scientists at the lab in Boothbay, working with her team, have been breaking a lot of rope and doing a lot of testing. This was all funded by NOAA Fisheries, and the weak point testing that we have done, we are collecting the data around that. We are submitting that with our comments to NOAA, but they are the agency that has to release a list, and we'll continue to push for a list of weak points. I don't even want to call them knots, line connections. They're very streamlined that will work for the operational needs of an individual fisherman. Next slide. Representative McCreight, I'm going to go right into the draft biological opinion, if you don't mind, and then we can take questions on all of it because it all does mix together in the end. Next slide. So as I mentioned, this is a requirement of the Endangered Species Act, where federal agencies have to ensure that any action by a federal agency is not likely to jeopardize the continued existence of a listed species. The formal definition of jeopardy is to engage in an action that reasonably would be expected to reduce appreciably the likelihood of survival and recovery of species in the wild by reducing the reproduction, numbers, or distribution of that species. The BIOP is the document that outlines that determination. And while our comments, which are nearly finalized now, are very critical of the BIOP, they are going to point out some inconsistencies in some areas where they've made some pretty big assumptions. I want to make sure it's clear that this BIOP does show no jeopardy to the species. So that is good. If they found jeopardy or this BIOP was challenged and it was thrown out, we would not have a fishery, because the federal rules cannot move forward without a BIOP. Next slide. So this BIOP focuses on federal fisheries. It looks at a variety of species besides whales. It's looking at turtles, marine mammals, sturgeon, to name a few. It evaluates 10 different fisheries, including the lobster fishery, and mostly the groundfish fishery would be impacted here, especially the gillnet fishery. And just a reminder, there is a court deadline that was put in place by the federal court in Washington of a deadline of May 31st for the issuance of a new BIOP. They vacated the last BIOP, but then gave the agency time to develop and finalize the new one. Next slide. The BIOP concludes actions are not likely to jeopardize, as I just mentioned. And but to get to a no jeopardy finding, NOAA states significant additional reductions are needed. So what that means is the rule that we've put in place, or they are getting ready to put in place, is needed to ensure the BIOP continues to conclude no jeopardy. They go hand in hand. Next slide. There is a conservation framework within the BIOP that breaks out things that need to happen over time. The next evaluation starts in 2023, and those are going to focus on other fisheries other than the trap pot fisheries. And there's also going to be a review on the right whale population and the threats to assess progress, as well as measures that are being taken by Canada. Beginning in 2025, further reductions in mortality are going to be needed with the fixed gear fishery. So that is the lobster fishery again. So when starting in 2025, they are looking for an additional 60% reduction to risk. So by 2030, they will have to have rulemaking to further reduce mortality, serious injury mortality in all fixed gear fisheries as determined by the 2025-26 evaluation. Combined, that is the goal of all of these. The goal of these reductions is a 87 to 93% reduction in risk overall. I'm going to let that hang there for a minute, because what that is saying is that the lobster fishery in the state of Maine must be reinvented. This is a gut punch. This came out of the blue when this hit and landed. After the rule came out, we were fairly optimistic that we were going to have excuse me, good progress going into the next 5 years, and then they dropped this BIOP. Next slide. So it's probably just said most of that, but it's worth repeating. After our current 60% risk reduction, they take another 60% reduction in 2025, and then up to an 87% risk reduction in 2030. This assumes a 90, I said 93 earlier, my apologies. It's a 98% total risk reduction in 10 years, 98%. It assumes no additional risk reduction from vessel strikes or in Canada. This is unacceptable. And we are going to push back very hard on the agency around that issue, because they do have the ability to put rules in place that could impact Canada. And I can go into those in a minute. If other sources of mortality reduce their impact, it could reduce the risk reduction required in U.S. fisheries, ship strikes, for instance. Next slide. There is a new BIOP population model. This model was never released. We had no idea this was coming until this BIOP was finalized. I'm going to look, I want you to look at the green line on top. That is proposed actions in Canada. If proposed actions in Canada continue to show progress, then we could see an increase of right whale populations. But even without federal fisheries, total closure of all US fisheries, we could still see the decline and extinction of right whales. So this really highlights the issues that we have with Canada and why they also need to be successful. Next slide. So NOAA concludes no jeopardy findings by comparing how the right whale population fares with no federal fisheries versus fisheries after a 98% risk reduction. The difference of 5 females are comparable to the rate of decline. A 98% risk reduction in U.S. federal fisheries. Right whale population predicted to continue to decline due to mortalities in Canada. That's again reemphasizing that we could eliminate all of our fisheries. If Canada doesn't fix their problems, and they've got big ones, then the population could still decline. Right whale population trajectories turn positive if US and Canadian actions to reduce mortalities work kind of hand in hand. Next slide. So the next steps with the BIOP, tomorrow is the deadline comments. Our comments have been finalized. They're going through final review at the governor's office. And I believe, since I don't see any emails, I believe they are approved as of noon today. When we submit those, once they're finally submitted, we'll ensure that the committee has copies of those. And I just a reminder that the BIOP is integral to the permitting of the federal fishery. Without it, we don't have a federal fishery. And next slide should be the end. And that should be the end. That is not a rosy picture. Not at all a rosy picture for the most singly highest valued commercial fishery in the country. This has the potential of being devastating to the Maine economy. We believe that we continue to put protection measures in place. And I'll go back over a decade when the ground line protections went into place. It had great benefits. We do not see entanglements. We have not seen entanglements in Maine waters for a long, long time now. There is also, this issue of right whale entanglements, especially as it pertains to Canada, is a direct result of climate change. We are seeing a severe decline in Calanus, which are copepods within the Gulf of Maine, which is the main food source. So you think of a giant a whale that weighs many tons, feeds solely on very small crustaceans, the smallest crustaceans that there are. These copepods are Calanus. And what we see is that there are good densities of food in Mass Bay and south of Nantucket, where they congregate and feed, where closed areas currently exist or are being supported in this rule, or in the Gulf of St. Lawrence in Canada. So again, this is an issue associated with climate change. So with that, I'll be happy to quiet down here and take any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, very grim. Representative Bloom.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. It really is, it's devastating. My question to you is that over last year, the year before, there was talk about the science and how you didn't agree with what the science that they were using to come up with these things. Is the science more acceptable to you now, or what the way they came up with this stuff? Because I know that was a big question.
No, thank you, Representative. No, we're not. And we're pointing a lot of the issues that we have with the science and the assumptions that they're making based on that science out in both of our comments around the BIOP and the proposed rule. One of the areas that is very concerning is when they assign the mortalities associated to, or serious injury and mortality associated to mortalities that are not known. We have known mortalities. There's a dead body, there's rope on it, they understand where it came from. And then there are the unknowns. And right now they continue to push this 50-50 number, 50% to Canada, 50% to the US. We continue to raise concerns about that. We have ever since the beginning. the population model that has just come out. The Maine Lobstermen's Association has hired a modeler. We've been in conversations with them directly, my staff, along with Patrice McCarron, talking about some of the concerns that we have there. So there's a lot at play with the science on this, and trying to come to an understanding of where what the data says and how it is being used. A good case in point is the closed area. From October to January, there is very few right whales in that area. The data does not support a closure. The data might support a closure with that existing data outside in Area 3, but certainly not in Area 1. So we're raising those concerns as well.
And just follow up, if I may, the copepod population, that science as well. I mean, I understand Bigelow has been trying to track it or track that kind of thing. Are they incorporating the newer science, new data, especially because of climate change?
Yeah, I wish I had Aaron Summers on to answer this better, but that data, that work that Bigelow is doing is groundbreaking, right? It's excellent science. And it certainly shows the loss of Calanus within Maine, in the Gulf of Maine. It's known by NOAA. NOAA is using that. They certainly recognize that science as being the best available science. I don't believe there's any predictive models associated with it to try to help us understand the movement of right whales yet. But I can get more information for you on that.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we lost our chairs. How about I'll just call on people? Representative, I'll start in my upper left-hand corner like I do in staff meetings. I'll go with Representative Hutchinson.
Thank you, Commissioner. The endangered species protection started, of course, many years ago. I can remember talking with Olympia Snowe, and I'm not misspeaking, with Senator Olympia Snowe, telling her to be very careful how she voted on protecting the whales. And this was a long time ago, and we're getting the results of that now. And I suspect a lot of it doesn't have much to do with what we can prove in whale mortality here along the state of Maine. It has more to do with global managing of the state of Maine. I'm wondering if we couldn't make the suggestion that Maine perhaps have some protection teams, 24/7 protection teams, maybe one in every zone, that maybe we can help fund it with some of this PPP money. In other words, you'd have a designated boat, might not always be the same one for more than 6 months, but somebody willing to be a link in the protection of whales by untangling and that type of thing, and they would be on call 24/7. In other words, if they were fishing and there was an entanglement, they would stop what they're doing, and that boat and maybe others in the area that had special gear on would go to get rid of entanglements. We don't have them, but if we
actually we do, Representative. The department has a specially trained team of whale disentanglers that are members of the Maine Marine Patrol. Aaron Summers is also a member of that team and helps coordinate that effort with NOAA. They actually scramble their own disentanglement group to work directly with us. And we, anytime there's an entanglement, we respond directly. It's certainly not zone by zone, but we have officers trained to ready to scramble 24/7 with any news around any entanglement.
But what I'm talking about is having fishermen ready in each zone to do this along with your people. I'm not saying to, and that way, I think you would get volunteers to do that as long as they didn't have to have huge expenses.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, Canada took a very similar approach, and one of their fishermen was actually killed during a disentanglement. This stopped all disentanglement and activities even in the US after that happened to reconsider it. I'm not sure this would have to be a permitted activity by the agency because you'd be interacting with an endangered species. I'm not sure they would even permit it now after that accident.
Is the endangered species the man or the whale?
So I'm starting to wonder, Representative.
Just a thought. I think, if we were show that we were proactive in this, might be worth some of it. But again, a 90% reduction and then ropeless fishing and weak link, the weak link, the minute you have gone to trawls that are, maybe 25 or more traps, it's so heavy that if somebody has sat over you, you're certainly going to break the line. So this is an end to lobster fishing as we know it totally, and maybe totally lobster fishing ending. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I lost connection for a little while, so I don't know what I missed, but
I took over, Representative, and I think Representative Hepler was next on the list.
Thank you. Representative Hepler.
Actually, I think it was Representative Falkingham.
Go ahead and we'll have him next.
Okay. So I watched, so I have two questions. One is, did I hear this morning that there was a right whale calf found dead down in Florida?
You did, I'm afraid.
Okay.
The good news from this year's calving is 15 calves have been born off the coast of Georgia and Florida this year. That is an excellent number compared to what we've seen the last few years.
Okay.
But we've had, over the last 3 years, we've also had 3 calves die from ship strikes or vessel strikes. We keep thinking of big vessels that are, tankers, freighters, cruise ships. 2 of the 3 were small vessels. This was a 54-foot charter boat that hit and struck and killed that whale.
Okay. No, I was hoping that was not something that I heard this morning. The other thing I wanted to ask was about ropeless fishing. I watched a Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute presentation the other night, and there was a fisherman on there who was experimenting with ropeless fishing and talking about how that was working pretty well, obviously on a small scale. So I was going to ask about that and whether that has that been people experimenting with that on the Maine coast, the bottom of the Maine coast is different from Cape Cod. And the other thing was, it was kind of disappointing, although that part was really interesting. It was kind of disappointing to hear the panelists talking about much more about entanglements than ship strikes. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, Woods Hole, the ENGOs are really focused on making massive changes to the commercial fisheries here on the East Coast. As it pertains to ropeless, it is a non-proven technology. It is used in a few places in the world where they have not their fisheries are nothing like ours. I'd point to the Australian clawless lobster fishery. It's used there to hide gear, not to make it safe. And they don't haul near the amount of traps from the depth of water that we do here off the Maine coast. Even NOAA will admit that ropeless fishing is not going to be ready for the prime time for upwards of 10 years. It is not proven technology. We've had a few fishermen try it by utilizing a ropeless technology on one end of a trawl. It has been used in Area 3 by several boats with success rates below 50%. Can you imagine how much gear you would lose in that case? I'd also point out that if ropeless fishing is used, they'll never say only one technology. So let's look at the Maine Marine Patrol. While they're trying to protect whales, the officers of the Maine Marine Patrol would not be able to go out and haul gear for protecting the lobster resource and following laws. So those issues around law enforcement and raising gear have not been utilized. and talked about in any depth yet. And then you have the mobile gear fleet that would not know where lobster traps are. So how are they going to also fish? So there's so many questions that are unanswered around ropeless technology.
Thanks.
Representative Fockingham. We disappeared.
On mute, Representative.
There he is.
I forgot about that mute. The news that you brought this morning, or I guess this afternoon now, is pretty devastating. I thought I'd just talk for a minute about the copepods. I worked with the department, with you guys, on that about 10 years ago, I think it was, and at that time, we had sufficiently proven that the copepods that the whales feed on didn't exist in our waters, and the whales aren't going to travel where they can't eat, where they're basically going to starve to death. So the whales were very rarely in our waters 10 years ago, but I know since that time that because of the warming temperatures, that it's even more so that the copepods are further and further away. So basically all these extreme protections, it's like protecting the western gray wolf in Maine. It just doesn't exist here. So it's crazy. So that was just pretty much my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Representative Bloom.
Real quick, what can we do to help you, Commissioner Kelleher? What should we do as a committee? Should we have a letter that we pen by March 1st? What should we do? What can we do to help you?
Certainly a letter to the agency expressing concerns, especially the potential economic devastation, would be beneficial. We certainly could share, as soon as it's signed by me, I could certainly share a copy of that, so you could, plagiarism is okay in my books on that issue. And then when it comes time for the proposed rule, we can share our comments prior to the deadline, and a letter could be sent from the committee as well there. I think that would be beneficial. I did a full briefing with the governor the other day. A lot of people, and this came up on the LEC meeting last night, a lot of people want to just sue, right? Let's file a lawsuit, let's stop it. Well, the rules actually have to be in place for us to even consider that. We do have a very good team of lawyers at the Attorney General's office. Do they have the experience we need, depending on a lawsuit, if it's filed, or if we are defending against other lawsuits? That would yet to be seen, but we may need some additional funding if we were to need outside counsel. And the governor is open to having that conversation directly with the AG if we get to that point. And I think I would also raise this issue. It has not been resolved, but I did raise the issue about staff needs here at the department. If we are going to have to move in the direction of potentially even needing to apply for an incidental take permit, if we came to that, we're going to need more assessment, more monitoring work. We may need more capacity, and you all know this is a $1.5 billion fishery, and we may need some more state investment to figure out the path forward. I've got an unbelievably excellent staff working on this from a science and policy perspective. But if it's going in the direction this BiOp is pushing us, I would say that we are going to need more help.
Commissioner, are you talking about future more staff? Is that going to be reflected in the budget, or is that?
Yeah, it's currently not reflected in the budget, and I'm not sure if we would, I'm going to be having more conversations with the governor if we need to address it in a change package before the final budget is done, or if we would be dealing with it in a supplemental. Where we are with this, I would think we could potentially wait for a supplemental, but I need to ponder it a little bit more, Representative.
Okay, thank you. Another question, Representative Thorne.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, who would be responsible for enforcing these new rules should they be implemented?
The Maine Marine Patrol, we have a joint enforcement agreement with the National Marine Fisheries Service with their Office of Law Enforcement. And all of our officers are federally deputized. So we would mirror many of the regulations in our rules. That it's much more effective to do it that way. So Maine Marine Patrol, then the Office of Law Enforcement for NOAA, they have their own agents and uniformed officers. Not a lot of them, not a lot of great help sometimes from them. And then the U.S. Coast Guard.
If I may ask a follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Do you foresee this necessitating an increase in those current patrol numbers or resources?
Representative, we always need increases in patrol numbers. We have as you know, we got a very big coast, and we have 52 uniform positions with about let's see, 30 something that are active on the coast with officers, specialists, and sergeants. This is going to bring a whole new level of enforcement, especially if it goes in the direction of ropeless. I'm certainly going to be needing some training around this, but we are in the process of working on federal appropriations request right now. And one of the things that we do need, we have a very, as you saw during our presentation, we have a very large fleet of offshore patrol vessels, but we need a vessel that's in the upper 50 to 60 foot class. In order to even go farther offshore and do multiple day trips, not day trips, but overnight trips to haul gear even in Area 3. It's a high priority for us, but it's like $3 million for a boat. So it's not a lot of money.
Thank you. Yeah. As I suspected.
Yeah.
Other questions? Well, I really appreciate the question from Representative Bloom about what we can do to help. So I think it's fair to say we'll do.
Yeah, the governor is fully committed to giving us what we need in the interim. She's been incredibly supportive about not second guessing. She understands that we know best on these issues. She gives us very good legal guidance in those conversations, which I'm always appreciative of. We all like to think we're our own best attorneys, but the Endangered Species Act and the Marine Mammal Protection Act are very cumbersome federal laws. They are not easy to work around. In all of the 17 meetings that I had with industry, where we had out of 5,000 license holders, well over half of them participate in face-to-face meetings back before COVID hit. What I warned at every one of these meetings, if the Endangered Species Act comes into play and every line is going to assume to be a risk, how that risk is weighted is the question, we're going to have an uphill battle, and that's exactly where we ended up.
Thank you. I know you have some time pressure.
I told them to start without me. This was more important. So my co-chair at ASNFC is handling my duties for a few minutes.
Okay, great. When will we know more? Could you just recap that? The deadline's coming?
Deadline for a letter on the BIOP is tomorrow. And then the deadline for the letter on the proposed rule is March 1st.
Okay, and you're going to share with us
I can send Lynn that letter that we're submitting, and it might be with the short time frame. A very simple approach could just be we're concerned about the economic devastation that this BIOP could bring to the state of Maine, and we're in full support of the department's comments. Let's keep it simple.
Okay, that sounds good. And you're talking about one that's due tomorrow, and then one that's due March 1st.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll we'll send, Lynn, we can send you the link for submission of a letter like that.
So I wonder, do we need to have the committee vote that we agree that we'll send a similar letter? Lynn, is that process? I think it is.
I think that is, I think you would need to notice that the committee was considering such a vote.
But it's due tomorrow. It's due tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So you're thinking of responding both tomorrow and to the March deadline? Okay.
That's how
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to the tech, whether it's legitimate or not. My only comment would be if you take a vote and it's not legitimate, no harm, no foul, but maybe take a vote and then we can find out whether you're allowed as a committee to do this action based on this vote. I'm kind of, I'm in over my head on that. That may be a question for the partisan staff.
Lydia, are you?
I just don't think I think when it's a letter, I think we can send a letter at any time to anybody we want to. And, you know, that we're voting to say just who wants to sign on to the letter is essentially what we're asking our fellow committee members. That's what I think. I think we should do it and not worry about it.
I think so too. And we can, Senator Mearmont and I can initial, that's never a problem. Lynn can initial for us. So could we just take whether we need it or not, a vote that the committee will send a letter in support of what the department is saying about this issue for tomorrow, and then we can revisit for March 1st. And Lynn can prepare the letter based on what the department has sent. Senator Rosen?
So moved.
I was just going to say yes.
Okay, and somebody has made the motion, or you're making the motion, Senator Rosen? It's hard in Hollywood Squares.
Lydia Bloom.
I made the motion. So
I second.
And Senator Rosen is seconding. Okay. And Linda, could you call the roll?
Absolutely. And I know people have dropped in and out, so if I call somebody's name and they're not there, just somebody let me know. Representative Thorne.
Yes.
No. Representative Hepler.
Yes.
Representative Bloom.
Yes.
Representative Rosen.
Yes.
Representative Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Mearmont is not with us at this moment. Representative McCreight.
Yes.
Representative Falkingham.
Yes.
Representative Ali.
Yeah. Yes.
Representative McDonald is not with us at this moment. Representative Hutchins, I'm sorry.
Yes, for what it's worth.
And Representative Stanley, and you're muted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there are 1, 2, 3 absent. So.
Did you give me Linda?
Yes, I did, Representative Ali, I did get you. So 10.
10 and 3 absent?
Yes.
Okay, great. And Lynn, you can do that and initial. We'll check with Senator Mearmont, but you're muted.
Do you mind? I was half listening before. So I just want to make sure I understand. Would you like the letter to say that we support the commissioners? Do you want it just a general, we support the department's position, or do you want me to be more specific and draft something based on DMR's letter?
I guess my suggestion would be, could you check in with Deirdre Gilbert about that specific? We're supporting the department, however it's worded, and we're emphasizing the economic devastation.
Okay. I will work with Deirdre. I will come up with something. I will send it just to the chairs or for you to review and approve,
Yeah,
or everyone.
send it to the
Before.
chairs. Yeah, send it to the chairs to initial, and then we'll make sure everybody has a copy.
Okay.
Let's do
So I'm-
tomorrow. We can spend
Yeah.
more time on the March 1st one.
Yes, I will get right on that after this.
Thank you. I have a couple comments. Representative Fockingham?
Just gonna put my hand down real quick. But, so I think the idea of a letter is a great idea. So I'm glad that we're all gonna sign on it. But for future reference, I think that a letter could say, we the members of the committee, and then let everybody opt in individually. I think, carries the same weight, and maybe perhaps we shouldn't take a committee vote on something that's not on the agenda. It's my own,
Okay.
is my only concern, but I appreciate the motion, and I think that the letter is a very, very good idea.
Okay, thanks. Representative Hepler?
Yeah, this is actually, is this actually unrelated to the letter? Can I ask it?
Sure.
Has to do, so I missed the two votes on the second and third bill, and I don't know, I wanted to vote on them, but I wanted to see the YouTube video first. So do I check in with Linda, with Lynn, with Representative McCrate?
I think the process is you call the presiding officer to make your vote, and then that will get transferred to Linda.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any further comments on Wales at the moment? And we'll keep talking about it, clearly. Okay, next part is, and it's 20 after 12, but we just have one piece left. So with everyone's indulgence, I would say let's continue and then break for the day. Okay. So if we could invite I see that Representative Newell is here and Ambassador Dana is here.
They're on their way in now.
Okay. Okay, great. And Deirdre Gilbert is going to present some information on the CARES Act. And we invited Representative Newell, Ambassador Dana, and others, if they were available, to specifically around the tribal issues. We wanted to make sure we're hearing everything. So welcome, and Deirdre.
Thank you, Representative McCrate. So as you may recall, I did give you kind of the full background on the CARES Act a couple weeks ago. Since that time, the commissioner did have a meeting with the tribal leadership and tribal representatives to talk through some of the remaining issues. To my thinking, I think there were two main concerns. The first one is the complexity of the more than whole provision that NOAA required us to have folks certify as part of this process. And I covered that in some detail a couple of weeks ago, but just as a very brief and conceptual reminder, NOAA was requiring that individuals who receive these funds compare their 2020 revenues to their prior 5-year average to ensure that the relief that they received through this program did not make their 2020 revenues higher than their prior 5-year average. And I think conceptually that makes sense to people in the sense of a relief program. I just don't think it was inherently clear honestly to any applicant necessarily. I think the fishing community viewed this program as relief that was available to commercial fishermen, kind of irrespective of their individual financial circumstances. So it just didn't inherently make a lot of sense, I would say, to a lot of applicants. And we are very sympathetic to that problem. We did talk to NOAA again and try to get some additional guidance on how that calculation should be done. I wrote that up and we did mail it or email it out to everybody who applied. And we also posted it on the DMR website. So we have tried to kind of fill in some of the gaps there. The other thing that we have done, the commissioner has talked to NOAA about just, again, the challenge that presented. There is some conversation that in future rounds of relief that perhaps NOAA would be willing to consider kind of a minimum payment amount below which they would not worry so much about the more than whole provision. So for example, if a payment was less than $10,000, maybe that wouldn't be something that an applicant had to calculate and affirm. And that is still kind of a conversation in progress. The other component that we discussed is the taxation piece that I believe Chief Nicholas originally raised, and whether these funds are in fact taxable for tribal members. At the very outset of this process, again, we were kind of going on the guidance that NOAA provided about the funds, which was basically that everybody who received funds through this program was going to receive a 1099 regarding this revenue, that it was taxable revenue. Since this issue has been raised, we have gone back to NOAA. NOAA is meeting with, they are getting some guidance from other federal agencies either today or tomorrow, I believe. So we are still awaiting further information on that topic. We have not had ASMFC proceed with the issuance of the 1099s for applicants who are tribal members. So that is kind of in a holding pattern until we get more information. And I think the final piece that we wanted to let you know, and I know the commissioner had mentioned this at an earlier conversation, there has been another round of relief approved by Congress. We don't have very many details about that yet. The only one of the few details that we do have is that from what we understand, going forward, the monies that are made available to tribes will be given directly to the tribes to administer themselves. So going forward, that will be a difference from how this program was administered in a future round of funding. We are still awaiting guidance on all of the other details about that next round, but that is one thing that we have asked and had answered.
Okay, thank you. I don't see questions, so let me invite Representative Newell and Ambassador Dana to comment if you'd like to.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering, is there any other individuals in the waiting room? I understood that Chief Sabatis was waiting, as well as former Chief Joe Sacabeza.
No, I had thought that they were coming, but they're not there. And I'm checking with Linda. Am I right? Are we seeing anyone else in the waiting room?
No, we are not. No, everybody is in the meeting.
If they join, we'll let them right in.
Yes.
Okay, let me just step away for a second. I have someone at my front door. Let me defer to Ambassador Dana for a second.
Okay. The joys of working from home. Welcome, Ambassador Dana.
Thank you. Good to see you all. Thank you, Deirdre. That was a great kind of assessment of things. And I'm not sure that I have any further questions. It sounds like you're waiting on some answers about the 1099s and the taxation issues. And I think you covered anything else that I was wondering about. Yeah, so I guess as the more funds become available, it sounds like the next round will go directly to tribes. So we may not be coordinating as much on that part of it. But I certainly appreciate being kept in the loop. And when we know more about the more than whole and the 1099, certainly feel free to let me in again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. If I can jump in.
Sure.
back here, but thank you, Ambassador Dana. I think that probably would have been my my comments as well. So I appreciate the update from Director Gilbert. We'll convey that back to Chief Nicholas as well as Chief Dana here in Passamaquoddy.
Thank you. Excellent. Any comments or questions from committee members? Deirdre, do we have any time frame guesses about the next round, or is just still waiting?
Not that I am aware as in terms of a time frame. I know that a lot of states are actually still in the middle. I mean, we haven't quite concluded the dispersal of the first round ourselves, but a lot of other states are even earlier in their own processes. So I don't know if the idea is to kind of let folks get through the majority of that first round before initiating the second round, but that's just a hypothesis on my part.
Okay, great, thank you. And thanks for keeping us updated, and we'll be certainly interested to hear updates as you know more. My understanding is that it concludes our program for today. Lynn, anything else you need to address?
No, I just was going to remind everyone that next Tuesday you have a briefing, Offshore Wind Initiative briefing at 9, followed by 2 public hearings, and then the final rescheduled meet and greet.
Yes, we have quite a few people who want to meet and greet us. So we'll have some good input there. It's what we've done is offer this to the interested parties list, which other committees are doing as well. And people have signed up. We're suggesting about a 15-minute time frame for each group, and obviously time for questions. And if there's anything else we need information on, we can certainly invite other groups, but these are those who have responded. So any questions from anybody about Tuesday? We start at 9. Governor's office is doing the briefing on the wind, offshore wind. So that's open to the public like everything else. If you have people who are interested, they can certainly write to mar@legislature.maine.gov to get the link and listen in, or they can watch on YouTube like every other committee meeting. All set, everybody? And I think Representative Hepler was the only one in the room who wasn't here for the vote. We have a couple others, and I'll just remind them that you go through the presiding officer, because it's our first time that we've taken votes in this way. Okay, all set?
Wait,
Thanks,
I don't go to Linda to vote?
Yes. I'm sorry?
I don't go to Linda to vote?
No, you call the speaker's office.
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it's new world. I mean, that was the same last time, but we were also able to run up to the committee room and make our votes. We can't do that this time.
I
So,
see. Thank you.
May I say something, Representative McCray?
Linda, please.
Yes, the way I understood it was if before the meeting, the whole meeting has ended, someone does come in, they can vote as they would have if they came into the room during the meeting last year. And then, with everybody present and, being on record. And if not after that, then you do need to go to the presiding officers. So if you did want to do that now, we could do it, or go through the presiding officers.
Thanks, Linda.
I would like to do it now if I can.
Okay, I'm sorry, who's speaking?
I'm sorry, Lydia.
Okay. All right.
Lydia, up there.
I'm sorry.
I was going to tell Miss Representative Bloom to become visual, but you have done that.
Right. Let me just take a second and find my paperwork because I've been doing things while the meeting has been going on. Okay. So Representative Bloom, if you're ready, I think you did one. You did 106.
Right.
And then there's 77, which was ought not to pass, and that was unanimous of the folks that were here already.
77?
Correct.
Ought to pass.
I'm sorry, ought to pass. I am so sorry.
Yes, 77, yes, ought to pass.
Okay. And then the last one was 152. Now, I know that kind of went back and forth, so if either Lynn or Representative McCray wants to give the little explanation on that first.
Yeah, that was the harbor master training bill, and we, on the first vote, the ought to pass failed. We took a second vote, ought to pass amended, and it was amended to change the CEUs from every other year to every 3 years. And a little bit of language changes to make it clear about municipalities not being required to prepay or pay it at all, or reimburse. And the second vote, the ought not to pass, was 6. The ought to pass amended with the amendment I just mentioned was 4, and we had 3 absent.
May I ask before Linda goes, is it your understanding that Representative Bloom will vote on both motions, the ought to pass as amended and the ought not to pass? Because the 3 remaining votes could switch majority minority numbers on either one.
I don't have the absolute answer on that. I suppose we could do it that way.
Well, I can vote on the final one.
Yep, go ahead.
Which was ought not to pass.
Ought to pass as amended, yes.
You want to do ought to pass as amended? Okay. All right, then that changes the vote to 6 ought not to pass and 2, 4, 5 ought to pass with still 2 people to vote.
Great.
Now Representative Hepler is one of those, if she wants to do her votes now also.
No, like I said, I want to watch the YouTube video.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Very good.
Thank you. Thanks,
So the time frame of that, sorry. So the time frame of that, I should do this by tomorrow.
By tomorrow noon.
Okay, guess what I'm doing tonight?
You do know how to have fun.
Technically, it's 2 business days at noon, so it would be Monday at noon. You have until Monday at noon.
I believe you, but I'm not sure.
And I believe it takes about 24 hours for this, once it's ended, to be uploaded to YouTube. So that will give you an opportunity to watch it tomorrow sometime and then do your vote on Monday.
Okay, thanks.
I hope you're right. That isn't what I understood, but.
Oh.
I thought the YouTube videos were coming up pretty quickly. Does it really take a day?
I was told it can take up to 24 hours.
It's already on? Okay.
Terrific.
Okay.
Then things have changed.
Even better.
Thank you.
Well, this is a great example of Zoom world, and things are confusing and we're learning as we go. What is that expression? Create the plane while you're flying it?
The one I was thinking of was the further we go, the further behind we get.
That too. Yeah. Okay, all set, everybody?
I will
Thank
stop.
you.
I will
We'll see
stop
you.
the stream.